What's going on? How y'all doing? Welcome to King Talk. Let me go ahead and introduce the crew. We got Mr. Trent Smooth, Luis, the Outlaw, Pink,
What up?
Penny, Pink, and White, with Sean Nelson, and myself, the PJ. Y'all, what's going on, Jimmy? What's going on? How y'all doing?
What up?
Is your check your mic?
Check
Yeah,
my
it'd be a
mic.
little low.
No, it's
All
a
right, let's see.
distortion.
Still sound low?
No, it's better.
Okay. All right, what's going on, gentlemen? How you guys doing? How y'all doing
Good.
today?
What it do? What it do?
All's well.
As well.
Excellent. Law, I need to get that God bless the West Side hat. Wait, I mean that you had on Law the
Yeah,
other week.
yeah,
That shit was
yeah,
fire.
yeah. I know where to get you.
Alright.
Sogo. Shy Boys. I mean, not Shy Boys, but Sogo. They got a store. They, from out west. Well, he from out west, but he got one that say the South Side and the West Side.
Yeah, we get up and just go up there. You know what I'm saying?
It's good to see you guys, man. Again, welcome to King Talk. It's Tuesday. It's that time of the week where the fellas get together. Damn, it's a bit to be talking to the fella. Okay, I'm just checking his message. Anyhow, what's going on, Dale Matthews, Angela Swift, Ronno? As you guys come in, hit the like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you guys are catching us on the replay, do us a favor and also hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe and share as well. I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Got an excellent show ahead for you guys. We're going to have that men talk. What's going on, Luis? Ain't seen you in a while here, brother. Good to see you amongst the kings. You too as well, Nelson. Good to see you again, brother. Always bringing that different approach, man, from a medical standpoint. So just make sure you don't. If Nelson says that you got it, you got it, all right? So if you say you bipolar, if you say that you have some type of disorder, that's what he do. So I don't get offended if he labels you that tonight. I don't predict he would do that, but I'm just doing all jokes. But he is bringing that medical side to the panel. What's going on, Bridget? How you doing? Hello, everyone. Sounds like an interesting topic. Christopher Matthews said, "Don't forget me." How you doing? It's real windy, man. Is it windy where y'all at? Probably not.
A little rain.
Lorraine. Okay. It's pretty windy out here, man. Anyhow, I'm gonna go ahead and get this show started, man. So I did watch the interview. It was on Harley Initiative with Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell. You guys familiar with him? No, you're not
Nope.
familiar with him. It is Pastor Philip Anthony Mitchell. So a little bit of his backstory. I don't know all of it, but this is what he said. I believe I heard his name before, but didn't really know who he was. But he was locked up. He was in jail, and he changed his life over. So he has a different outlook when it comes to him applying like biblical principles and the way he live his life, and the way that he articulates himself is, I think he does it well so that most people can understand it. I think he is out there in Atlanta. In the interview, he did state that they bought a building that's kind of right in the trenches. It was an old building. I think they used to do some type of basketball. It's a big area. And so right now he's trying to raise money in order to be able to change it up. They got the building. They secured the building, but they just have to, I guess, remodel it and rehab it. So he wanted to actually, since he's from the streets, he wanted to actually place, I guess, the fellowship and right there in it so they can get people on track. But seemed to be a solid dude, man. I like the interview. The interview was pretty well. So I took some clips from it, which we are going to discuss. I'm not going to go all around. I think that'll take up too much time if I go all around. So I may call on a few people. And before I move on to the next clip, if you want to say something there, just say, hey, I just wanted to add something before you move on. Because I just think it just kind of slowed the flow down. I want this to kind of be a conversation and not just I put something and we go all around. Cool. So if I skip you, it's not that I'm doing it on purpose, but I'm just wanting to make sure I get through some of these clips and just be able to add the context. All right, so let's go ahead and get this show started. What's going on, Clout? Good to see you, brother. Haven't seen you in a while here as well.
Yeah, it's been a little minute.
Yeah, I know.
How's everybody doing? Good?
Yes,
Man,
sir.
yeah.
Yeah,
Live
got
and
the old gang back.
yeah. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and play this first clip, man. And this is I'll play it and then I'll go ahead and introduce it.
You struggling with sin looks like on a real level.
I want to first establish a truth that there is no one who has ever walked the earth who's perfect except the Lord Jesus Christ. And so every person struggles with sin. We were born in sin. We commit sin. Everybody's sinful. I struggle with sin. The great Apostle Paul, who's heralded as probably one of the greatest preachers in the entire history of the world after Jesus himself, he struggled with sin and he documented that. And so my struggles with sin is common to all men, right? I struggle with things like pride, arrogance, jealousy, covetousness, lust, all these things that have passed through my heart. These are common struggles that I've struggled with, especially in this season of my life where things are growing around me so fast. It's very easy for me to struggle with pride. The last time I felt pride creep up in my heart, I told my staff I had to go away. I told my staff, and I locked myself in a hotel room for a week with a bottle of water, a jug of water, a notepad, and a Bible. And I had to spend a week with the Lord in fasting and prayer to wring that pride out of my heart. I started feeling some kind of way because of the growth of our church. And so what sin looks like to me is the same thing it looks like to you, right? You see women and you feel some kind of way, don't you?
Absolutely.
We're real men in here, right?
Right.
I mean, I know you're a lady in here, but let's just keep it real.
Right.
Keep it 100. It's not like you blind, right? You see women, you feel some kind of way, right? You're doing good on your podcast, you feel prideful. You see a dude with another car, you feel covetous. You see somebody with a better house, you feel jealous. I mean, men, the struggles of men is common. We just front like we perfect, but we're not honest enough to have these conversations. So I think all the struggles of men are common.
All right, let's go ahead and get to that first clip, man. He spoke on men struggle with sin. Men struggle with sin. I want to go ahead and speak on this first, man. Who was that said that? Go ahead, Sharon. Go ahead and speak on the first, man. Like I'm gonna see if I can get humble on it.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we get you.
Okay. Yeah, one thing I like about what he said is that, everybody falls short of the glory of the Lord. And I said that actually in a previous panel that we have. And I just feel like it's a very good thing for that man to be vulnerable enough to tell the truth, to tell it like it is. Because a lot of people want to seem like they holier than thou and want to put themselves on a pedestal up there to be like they are God, to be worshiped like God. And a lot of pastors that I observe try to create themselves to be like a deity, like they're holier than thou, they're holier than you, And I just had a talk with my uncle today, and I was like, man, remember in church when the pastor will pray over oil, and you'll be like, okay, the oil is blessed, and they'll go ahead and put the cross on your forehead, and you all good. And I said, why can't I pray over that same oil and have that oil be blessed and give it to people and have them put it on themselves and say that it's all the pastor has, it's also within me. You know what I'm saying? And I just love the fact that he was just like relatable. He was honest. I mean, he is pretty extreme with like locking himself in a hotel room and sitting there with a week with a jug of water. But whatever he had to do to get it done, he got it done. So salute to that brother. I forgot his name, but salute to him. And keep telling the truth and keep telling it like it is.
All right, go ahead, Luis.
Gentlemen, good evening. It's good to see you guys again. It's been a while. It's interesting. I do resonate with the brother because he does talk about, the struggles of men. And I don't think that's ever talked about, not from the standpoint, but not from the societal standpoint, but I think internal battles that a lot of men are sometimes face, with that sense of rage, jealousies, just misplaced guidance at times. And while the brother Sherman was speaking, I went to go grab my NIV Bible real quick, and there was something in here that says, "My son, if sinful men entice you, do not give in to them." And that was Proverbs 1:10. Yeah, everything is enticable. I mean, they set up a speed limit that do 60 for 65, but they sell you a car that does 130. You go to gyms and they put all the fast food restaurants in that same plaza where there's a gym, right? Because they know that you're at your most vulnerable when you're most hungry, right? So there are a lot of traps that are set and organized. If you look at, it's chaotic organization, but it's set there because you're always, enticed to do something, whether it's speed, whether it's breaking your diet because you just worked out and you went to that fast food spot that's right next door to the gym, or you're driving home and there's that gentleman's club along the way, right? And they got the big flashing lights outside, etc. There are always constants, and I think there are more. I think that there are more pitfalls and traps set up by other men for men to kind of fall short. And those struggles begin at a very young age. You start seeing the writing on the walls. You start seeing things, and you start questioning yourself how to avoid those things. Is my mic good?
Yeah, it's kind of clipping a little bit. It's kind of popping. All right, while he's fixing that, I'll come back to him. Go ahead, Clout.
I think everything he said was a good reminder to kind of even have grace on yourself and kind of check yourself at the same time, because all of us are influenced by sin in the same way he was saying how he was influenced by pride. You have to be able to reflect on yourself and know what you're being afflicted by and take some time to actually work on that. So being able to accept that you have those flaws is the first step towards fixing them. So I'll land there.
All right. Go ahead, Law.
Yeah, I ain't really have much, man. I'll let that one slide.
All right. Go ahead, Hank.
So what is your question you was asking, JR?
He was talking about men.
Yeah,
he said men struggle with sin. And so he didn't really he spoke up on a lot of things, ego, jealousy. Just spoke up on a lot of things, how just men struggle with sin. All men struggle with sin.
Well,
I mean, yeah, I definitely, I could definitely agree with that. Like you said, I mean, we do it on a regular basis. I know one of the things I share with my wife. I said, shit, I can't think of a woman that I've been with that I haven't cheated on.
What?
Yeah, so I mean, I haven't. I not one. I said she might be the only one that I have never cheated on with. So I told her she needs to be blessed. But do I struggle with it? Yeah, on a regular basis. Because you got people that come at you. I'm a married man, and some women look at that as a plus. I mean, there's lack of respect for the married man anymore. You know what I'm saying? And so it's just something we have to deal with on a regular basis as about how do we mentally deal with it. You know what I'm saying? How do we when those situations arise, how do we handle that? You know what I'm saying? How do we address that? How do we make sure that we stay on the right path of not, falling into our flesh or whatever sin that we may be dealing with, so.
Let me come back to Luis.
So, real quick, do you think that there is enough guidance in place for younger to learn and see these things and have that kind of insight? Or do they have to just go through the fire the first time to really understand that experience and navigate from that? Because again, I talk about the temptations, before it comes in. So there's that process.
You asking in general, Luis, or anybody? All right.
Yeah,
I
I'm
would say
asking
that
everybody.
I would say that there is enough guidance for some people. We all aren't afforded the exact opportunity, right? So there are some people who don't need to go through the fire. There's some people who learn through the mistakes of others. There are some people who they witnessed enough and were taught enough to be able to execute properly and not get themselves into significant troubles, right? So I try to do. I don't think that there's enough in society to be effective, but then there's also that part of it where there's not enough people who have an ear that wants to listen, right? And one of the things that the brother mentioned was his humility, and like Sherm articulated, I think that we have to be careful when we put ourselves on a pedestal when we speak to people, because it will fall upon deaf ears. It has to be palatable. It has to be in a way where people could be relatable, and some people just don't have the ability to self-reflect and understand that this is the way that someone else will perceive it. I think that's the major issue. A lot of us don't know how to deliver a message to a particular individual, and we have to understand that not every man is, we're not a monolith. There are some people who we all went through different situations, and we have to try to relate to that person as an individual.
All right. Go ahead, Marcus.
Yeah, no, I agree with everything everybody's saying, especially Trev and Sharn, in regards to not putting yourself on a high horse to point down and talk at people, right? So I think, like, from what I heard from him so far, he seemed like a solid dude who genuinely trying to give a message. Because I never heard of him before, right? So from what I just perceived, he seemed like a solid dude trying to give a message, and I think it's palpable. Maybe not to somebody that I think it's palpable to people like me, or people where I come from. So yeah, salute to him. And I always commend even the fact that where he bought his gym at, right? He didn't go try and find the most luxurious suburb and put a gym there. He went and put the gym where the people he wanted to affect was at. I think that speaks to a mindset, because you know where your target audience is, you know how to reach that target audience, and then you speak directly to them through whatever means can make you more palpable. So I think the brother on a good path, and I salute what he's doing so far. Straight up.
All right. We'll play this next clip and continue the conversation.
I think we do ourselves a disservice. I'm about to keep it 100 right here.
Please.
I feel like spiritual leaders do the culture a disservice by creating veneers of perfection. Because when we do that, we have men like you who look up to pastors, and you feel like they're at a place you can't get to because you think they're so perfect, and you think they're so holy, and you think they're so righteous. And because you have no knowledge about their own struggles, you put them on a pedestal because you lift them above humanity. And that's why I think it's important for spiritual leaders, especially those who have influence, to be honest about their struggles. Now, that's not to say you have to talk about everything, but you should talk about your weakness. That's why Paul said in the scriptures, he boasts all the more in his weaknesses, not in his strengths, so that the power of Christ can be displayed in him. If I talk to you about my struggles, that gives you hope. You say, oh, snap, Philip Anthony Mitchell struggled with sin. Philip Anthony Mitchell has issues. That automatically gives you hope that if God can use a man at that level who is also struggling with stuff, that gives you hope. That gives you more hope than if you thought I was so holy you can't get to where I was.
That's facts.
Facts?
Yes.
Right. And so I want to establish that. And so the way I deal with my sinful nature is this thing I wring out sin from my heart. So it's like this rag I got right here, right? If this rag had water in it, right, and you sat it down, it could hold water, and it may look dry, but if you squeeze that rag, water will fall out from the bottom, right? So we have sin in our hearts. And so what this looks like for me practically is that I get into my prayer room, and when I go in there, I'm honest with God. I think we do ourselves a disservice when we go into God's presence and we're trying to sanitize our prayers. It's like there is no ambiguity with sovereignty. So God already knows all of your struggles. It makes no sense for us to hide that from him. So let's say I go in there and I know I'm dealing with pride. It's in my heart. It's like the water in this rag. I go in there and I start crying out to God. God, I feel pride in my heart. And I'm asking you to wring this pride out of my heart. And I'm praying all the time, God, I pray you would give me the ability in my heart to hate the things that you hate and to love the things that you love. God, I pray you will create in me a heart that is pure. And I pray you will create in me a consecrated interior life. And so I'm constantly crying out to God, Lord, create in me an interior life that is pleasing to you. I want to have thoughts that is pleasing to you. I want to have words that is pleasing to you. I want to live in the dark in such a way that if somebody followed me all day, they would say, this is truly a holy man. So I'm constantly wringing out of my heart the sinful things that is coming up in my heart. If lust gets in there, I got to wring that out. If pride gets in there, I got to wring that out. If jealousy gets in there, I got to wring that out. If selfish ambition gets in there, I got to wring that out. If I start feeling myself because of comments on social, I got to wring all of that out. This is me doing the work to keep my heart pure as best as possible, because you are responsible for the cultivation of your own heart. Nobody's not going to do that for you. You see what I'm saying? Nobody's not going to do that for you.
All right, go ahead, Kenny. You, Kenny, KP.
And peace to the panel. Well, if y'all know me and y'all know me well, I battle these demons every friggin' Tuesday and days off. I think that humility is a constant struggle within life, and I think you will master it once you're in the grave, because there's always learning to be done every day. It's just stacking days. Some days you move 2 steps forward, some days you move 3 steps back. What are the 7 deadly sins? Gluttony, greed, sloth, wrath, envy, lust, and pride. We all are afflicted with those. It's just how we move through getting to a good place, stacking more positives than negatives. It's a constant struggle. I could tell that man speaks with conviction. I also look at his knuckles. He looked like he'd been through a couple of things. Probably knocked out a couple cats and blessed them. If I could look at that man and watch his maturation, like I tried to do with a brother that was holding up a Bible and telling them the story, let me see your testimony because I've spoken mine. That is believable. His story I'm familiar with. He has no problem telling you when he was in the mud and low places to where he is now and saying, it's a constant battle. I'm no better than you. Just rub elbows with me. Remember, none of us is perfect. That's why his message resonates with me. I'll leave it there.
Go ahead, Nelson. Should we talk about our weaknesses?
No, I mean, everything he said was on point. All of us struggle with sin. And he's definitely right about the part about we tend to look at pastors and kind of deify them. And some of them present themselves in such a way to where it looks like this is something that they've mastered. And so, thinking on ourselves, like I think what a lot of men, what ends up happening is guilt and shame creep in, and we have our struggles, and it seems like we're never going to get past them. Every time we go through a time where we think everything is good, and some of our old habits or things that we've desired that's past and that we've grown to a new level, and then something happens and reminds us that we're in the same exact spot. So we end up looking at these pastors that preach about it and preach so heavily about it and preach about how blessed they are that they've had so many years and never cheated on their partner and done all these other things. And it makes it seem like these people are out of reach. And that it's just not meant for us to attain it. So then guilt and shame creeps in, and we end up staying in that spot rather than realizing that this is a race. It's a marathon. Like, we're constantly being perfected. And the beautiful thing about it is, like, we get to remind ourselves that Christ is the author and the finisher of our faith. He's the one that's perfecting us. So, like, reminding ourselves this isn't something that we are overcoming. He's overcoming it in us. So I think a lot of pastors have done us a disservice. A lot of the mega church pastors, especially the ones that don't preach the full gospel, and a lot of men struggle with that guilt that keeps them in the same spot. So everything he said, I thought was on point.
All right, go ahead, Trev.
What part did you want me to address?
Should we talk about our weaknesses?
Yeah, I do think so. I know Lewis had mentioned something a little bit earlier, and it was mentioned as he was talking through. Like, there's some people sometimes that could bring you into it, right? So you have to be careful who you surround yourself with, right? For some people, another person could be your weakness. There was a point in my life where I was that dude with that energy where, if we was outside, I'm probably going to get you into some shit that you probably shouldn't, right? I was that dude with that energy that we gonna go fuck shit up. We gonna just be outside, like really be doing some damage in the streets. And some people had no business doing that because of their situations. But, if he was coming out with me, then that's just what it was. So I've learned to assess another person's situation and understand, okay, well, this cat, he don't need to be doing that, right? And we have to regulate ourselves, but then, and it's just a matter of respect as well. You have to have respect for their situation, but you can't always expect everyone to do that. So you have to understand who's good for you and who's not good for you. I think that a lot of times we forget that sometimes that those outside influences could be your biggest weaknesses. And as far as us bringing that to the forefront, it goes back to what I was saying a little bit earlier, where for people to really relate to you, you have to appear to be human, right? They just mentioned that again in that last part, that you're outside of reach sometimes, it seems, right? It seems like a level that you could never get to. And that's discouraging, that's defeating, that's demoralizing. You can't get to that level because people sometimes want to appear to be perfect. And I think that's a weakness in itself. That goes along with that the pride he was talking about, where people just are afraid to disclose certain things about themselves or even talk about the struggles that they've had. I think that that's important. I now mention many of the struggles that I used to have because I am proud of where I am today, but I do realize a lot of the struggles helped me to get to that position, right? It helped me become wise. I've learned from it. I become better from it. So I think that if someone understands, okay, damn, he came from humble beginnings, or he came from a situation that was kind of like mine, that would you'll be more inclined to help someone who wants to be in your position because they can see, okay, he started from a similar position from where I was, so he can likely guide me to where I want to be.
Yeah, I just want to add this. I just want to add this real quick. So in my life, like right now, I've been working on my relationship with God, right? And it took me a while to separate religion and the people from God. And because of that, I had a lot of I seen a lot of pastors do a lot of bullshit. I've seen the effects of some of the stuff they've done, and it affected my family too, right? So I have a certain disdain for that just archetype and personality type that's just deeper than the panel or deeper than any of that shit. Like this may seem crazy to y'all, but there was a point in time where I say I would rather sell drugs than be a pastor, because at least I'm giving the people what they asked for, and it's a fair exchange. That's how the thought process I had when it came to like pastor. So working on that and separating it and pushing like those type of holier than thou false and working on that helped me get to a point where I could separate them from actually interacting with God, and that helped me a whole lot, right? And shit, the other thing I struggled with was hierarchy within manhood. So like if I like that whole worshiping the pastor or putting them on a pedestal, I never put them on no type of pedestal. It just seemed odd to me as a man, and this could be pride, something that I've been trying to. I never, as a man, wanted to bow down to another man, and it just to me felt like by putting another man on, like if I need to talk to God, I need to talk to God. I don't need to talk to you and praise you and add the honorable when I'm talking about you. In order for me to have a relationship with God, it seemed,
arrogant,
for lack of a better word, it seemed arrogant. So those are some of the things that I struggle with in that process. But I feel like Buddy, I could have had a real conversation with and walked away with some game and be like, yeah, I could take something from this, as opposed to I hate these weak ass, fake ass, probably homosexual ass preachers. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, that's yeah. I'll leave it there because I'm kind of working through it now.
No, I really like what you just finished saying, Marcus, and Trev, JR, make sure you clip whatever Trev said. We are not perfect, but there's a lot of people that showcase perfection, and I think that, or fake perfection, and I think it's just more of a way to kind of cloud or hide their sins, right? To kind of, it's okay to show scars. It's okay to show, downfalls. And I've always made this comment, especially in the profession that I work. We sometimes glorify the finished product, but we don't really talk about what the journey that it took to get to that final product, right? That the time that it took to create that. And I find that today we celebrate more of the finished product or the end result versus the journey. And I think the journey and the struggle is what builds a lot of character. And I don't know how the sentiment of some of how you gentlemen might feel, but do you feel that the course in which we're trying today, do you feel that we're building a lot of character among you?
I think you
Sorry,
cut out, bro.
yeah, sorry. I asked, based on the trajectory in which we're heading nowadays, do you feel that we're building a lot of character amongst young people, right?
I think right now it's hard to gauge how much it's actually having an effect on younger people. Only ones I can see are the ones that are directly within arm's reach. You know what I'm saying? But I do see that going on from multiple people, right? So multiple people in my circle are out putting the same message out to those that they bring it up. You're going to have those that are lost in the sauce, but you got to reach as many as you can. You know what I mean? Being a good example of what you want to see them be, not just talking about it. You know what I mean? You get a lot of these holier than thou's talk about it, act as if they've never done anything and they don't understand the audience. If you don't understand the audience, then they're not going to want to hear from you, right? So, and if you're trying to make them seem like you belittling them or you better than them, then you're going to lose the people that way. And that brother, I do feel like that's somebody you could at least hear the sincerity in his voice, like he been through something and he not gonna tell you he haven't. He ain't gonna lie to you. You know what I'm saying? You get a lot of these fake dudes doing that these days, but I digress.
So is it the tone or is it the message that we're paying attention to when we listening to people give
I
us
think
advice?
I think it's a combination of all the things. You could even the energy is palpable. Like the energy just feels sincere. I ain't gonna hold you. It feels sincere. Like it's from what I see, like it's coming from a good place, like a actual like a good place, not a self-aggrandizing or self-pedestalization or belittling or any of those things. It just seemed like it's coming from a good place, and that resonates.
All right. Anybody else want to add on before I play this next clip? All right, here we go. Let me get to this super chat. That's Simone's 499 says, "Hey Kings, what's going on with that? How you doing? And thank you."
She was in the street, right? And every man she date, he got his hand in that cookie jar. I mean, that's normal culture in the street. But now she's reading in the word about her temple. And now she's reading about her body being a temple of the Holy Spirit. And now she's reading about fornication. And now she's reading about holiness. And now she's feeling convicted about her past life. Now she's saying stuff like, you know what? I want to keep myself for marriage. That's going to shrink her pool down. I want to be celibate until I get married. That's going to shrink her pool down. I want a man that honors God first. That's going to shrink a pool down. I want a man that loves God so deeply that he got to pass through God's heart to get to my heart. That's going to shrink a pool down. I want a man that understands stewardship. That's going to shrink a pool down. So she starts feeling that way. And she starts having that desire. It is going to make her pool very strong. And she may be single for a season. And that's okay, because singleness is not a curse. And marriage is not the promised land. And so, yes, I think her struggle is glorious and it is divine. I want to say it's not unfortunate. We just want to pray for that sister that by God's grace, if it be God's will, she'll find a man that will rise to the level of her standard. As long as her standard is biblical and is not unrealistic. You know what I'm saying? So some women, I think, might have an unrealistic standard. Like, you got this list and some brother has to meet everything on that list. He has to be perfect. Nobody gets a perfect girlfriend or a perfect boyfriend. Nobody gets a perfect spouse. That we all get projects and we have to grow together. And that's why I think, like, you was kind of broaching this just a little bit when we talk about a lot of the problems we have with relationships in the culture. I feel like probably one of the number one things that ruins most relationships in the culture is selfishness. Selfishness destroys more relationships than anything else. The majority, 9 out of 10 relationships end because of selfishness. And what is the motivation for that? Our sinful nature. So if I'm dealing with my sin and I'm bringing that out, I learn to be more selfless. I learn to put others ahead of myself. This is all biblical teaching. I learn to value others more than I value myself and care. And so for that sister, I think she's in a glorious struggle. And I think she should continue to honor the Lord until he decides to send a man in her life that's going to rise to the level of her standard. She's going to be single longer than she may, but I think it's a glorious thing that she's in.
Singleness is not a curse. Singleness is not a curse, what he said. Look at that KP face. Go ahead. I'm going to go to you, Cloud. You ain't spoken in a while. We can think about what he said. Singleness is not a curse.
He started losing me a little bit when he started getting into the man rising to the standards of a woman talk. You know, like, and once I hear pastors start going in that direction, I immediately become skeptical. Because to me, in combination with the words he's using, the tone he's using it in, you know, the way he presents himself, I think everything he's saying sounds exactly like what women want to hear. I think it's like honey to the ear. And I think that, yes, he sounds sincere, but I think sincerity is also a very good brand. I think there are some people who know the right words and are great orators and know how to sound precise and sincere, and they use that. I think pastors especially are very good at using that to stir up people's emotions, to get you to feel what they want you to feel. And once I heard that little tidbit of rising to the standards of women, I already know what kind of pastor you are. You're the women's pastor. You're the pastor for the ladies. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is what this is about. It sounds like this I want men to be vulnerable, to be able to build themselves up. But really, what he's really trying to get men to do is really be more feminine, more express your feminine side. You know, get more in touch with your feelings. You know, be what the women are saying that you should be. You know, and rise to their standards, because you're of course you shouldn't think you're the leader. She shouldn't be rising to your standards. God forbid a pastor who claims to follow the biblical order would say anything like that. So it's like me, I listen very closely for the directives that they're giving. And the words he's using sound beautiful. They sound compassionate. They fill you with emotion. But it's still the same old bullshit that they all saying. It's Derek Jackson with a Bible. And that's what I see at the end of the day.
Yeah, he did lose me as well. I'm not gonna lie, he did lose me as well. Isn't the saying though, like he who finds a wife finds a good thing and finds favor from the Lord, right? And so I find that the hierarchy in which he's trying to set up his narrative about the woman's journey and what she has to go through, I was like, well, if she's already put herself in a position where to be found by a man who loves the Lord, right? You're already in close proximity. So it just makes me wonder. It's like then he started talking about the pool, shrinking the pool, and I was like, that thing ought to be like a bathtub at that point, because you're not meant for everybody. And that's one thing that I find that a lot of people get hung up. We're not for everybody. It's okay to be exclusive to a small group of people who share the same value system that you do, who share the same beliefs that you do, who may have similar upbringings that you do, right? It's okay. Like this widening pool that we have to kind of, catch the extra stragglers who are trying to just figure it out or going with the flow along the journey, are the people who are holding you down. They're the anvil that are sinking you to the bottom of the ocean. I just thought that his hierarchy in terms of how he said it, because he never presented it as, God, man, woman, child. It seemed like it's like woman, then man, and God is somewhere in the mix behind there. Thank you.
So I agree with you, Clout, as far as him giving honey to the ears. What he started to say, it kind of sounded like fingernails on a chalkboard to me. Rising to a woman's standard sounds bogus, but I think he meant well. A lot of times we disparage and defeat women, right? And when you do things in your past, it is what it is, right? If I caught a couple bodies, I'm gonna have to wear that jacket for the rest of my life, right? If whatever it is that I did, right? People end up on Megan's Law, it don't go away, right? That stain is on you. So I think that sometimes we forget that we have to teach people to be more responsible, and I understand that women sometimes want to change their path, and we encourage women to do that. We tell them to do that, but then now what? We tell them to do that for what? So they can find a suitable mate. We tell them to stop 304, right? So one thing that I've noticed though, outside of this space, like people who don't check in with us, they have a different frame of mind. A lot of these cats don't be thinking, oh, she 304, or what's your body count, or whatever. They might there's some dudes who actually see a woman with a lot of sexual experience and view it as XP, like beneficial, right? Because they coming out of the box like a freak, and they don't understand the damage of it. Me, I see it as like, a car with miles and how somebody was straight dogging it. And if I'm not a master of restoration, then I'm not going to want to deal with a transmission that's slipping. You know what I'm saying? I don't want my engine knocking. I don't want to deal with the trials and tribulations of someone who has that much miles, hard miles on the road. That's how I feel about it. But I don't want to tell women that there's no hope, because there's some dudes who just ain't with it. They really don't think like us. I would venture to say that outside of this space, there's more men who are out of touch with how women work and what the consequences of a promiscuous woman is. So if a woman, it does shrink the pool because people like us ain't checking for it. We don't care about any of that, right? That's out. I think most of us on the panel would agree like that. That's not the woman for them. But I do think that there are more people who are uneducated about it or just don't know what's going on with that, not hip to it, or don't care, or don't think it has much merit, and will gladly deal with somebody who has hell of experience. Again, not for me at all, right? And I don't think any of the gentlemen on the panel would get down like that. But there's a lot of men who just don't care. So I'm not going to say it's over, but women do have to understand that a lot of men that are like us, if you saying like you got a hella body count and then now I can't get none, you saving yourself to marriage, it's like it feels like you cheating me because you gave that to everybody else and then I'm supposed to be the one for you and you telling me I can't get none but you let everybody else slide. I'm like, well, damn, what's up with that? It feels like a raw deal because I'm supposed to come in and give you the ultimate honor and then you let everybody else nut for free. Like, what we doing? So females have to take that into consideration. And I do agree that you were drastically lowering, like shrinking your pool. But if the woman is willing to have some serious concessions, right? Like if she's completely removed that whole 6 foot, 100,000, that's out. Like stop doing that because men who have built themselves up to that level or on that level, perceived value, they are weighing their options and they're really meticulous about what type of women they pick. So you are going to have to get with somebody who probably really love you well, but won't have those superficial attributes that you so desire. So if women are strategic about it, because there really is somebody for everybody, the women just have to understand how detrimental that is to your, or was, if you're reformed, if you're a reformed 304, right? You have to understand how detrimental that is to your market value, and you have to match up accordingly.
I kind of heard it just slightly different. Because I thought he gave the disclaimer in the beginning, correct me if I'm wrong, that he was saying that if women have unrealistic expectations or materialistic expectations, or because I think he kind of addressed the
he did.
Yeah. And he was just saying like as long as it's biblically rooted, then you need to raise. And I think, I mean, if that's your religion and you follow that, I don't see that much of a problem with it. I get where y'all coming from, but if it's co-ed, so he talking to both people. You know what I'm saying? So.
Yeah. So he was posed a question. I'm gonna go ahead and play it just to get a context because when I was clipping it up, you probably didn't get a context, but here it is.
And it's even more unique situations I think that come up for my sisters, because my sisters, I feel like when I talk to my brothers and sisters, they have unique issues, especially the sisters in Christ. For example. Interesting. I'm having a conversation with one sister recently, and she's like, Ty, it's like, yo, as I get closer to Christ and as I advance and, build my life with God, I feel like less men become qualified. I feel like my pool of men just shrink that I can actually be with. And sometimes I even feel like I'm probably just going to have to be single. Because just of where I am. And help me understand or talk to her, because I didn't really know how to answer that question.
Yeah.
Because is it a reality that as a woman grows her relationship with Christ genuinely, authentically, and closely, is it true that she now has less men and men of God that she actually can genuinely connect with because she only wants to connect with a man on her level, in her walk?
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
So I think this is very powerful that you broach that, especially in the culture. And so I would say there is a lot of validity to that, and there's a lot of validity to her struggle. So let me talk to her, right? Because she represents a lot of women out there in the culture, a lot of women in the church world, a lot of women probably watching tonight and listening. So here's what I want to say. There is a woman who comes into the church world. She is saved by God, and before she is saved, her standards are very low. She tolerates a lot of nonsense and a lot of foolishness. And when you tolerate a lot of nonsense and foolishness, I mean, that pool could be very larger. And so this woman starts getting close to Jesus. She starts reading her word. She starts praying. And the closer you get to the Lord, your heart is going to be transformed because he is a consuming fire. You cannot get close to fire that don't burn you. So as she gets close to the Lord, as she's reading the word, her standards begin to change. Not only do they change, they start to increase. Her tolerance at the same time simultaneously begins to decrease for things that she feels like are not acceptable for a woman of God. And what that does, because the culture is largely unsaved, it automatically shrinks the pool of men that are candidates for her. Now she has a biblical standard. Now she has a godly standard. And what that does is it may keep her single just a little bit longer. And it may shrink her pool just a little bit smaller. But if I'm single and I'm a single woman who's grown, I would rather be single and wait and have the blessing of peace than be hopping in and out of bad relationships and be miserable all the time. And so that woman you're talking to, it is absolutely normal to grow in deeper intimacy with God, greater standards for yourself. And as a result of that, have less men to choose from. So I think what she's struggling is, watch this, is a divine struggle. I think it's.
All right. So that was the context.
Yeah, I still agree with him, but I think that if you believe in that, again, with the caveat of if that's the religion you believe in, I agree that makes sense. With one caveat though, if you're gonna move that way, you probably need somebody outside of yourself to see if your expectations line up with reality. Because it's real easy to do that, and then you just on the island by yourself on some husband store stuff where you just looking for the best of the best of the best, and you keep going, saying that this is what I deserve, this is what God has for me, and you don't got no way of like tempering that so it can be realistic in reality. So I don't know if he like providing some form of religious vetting or counseling for these women, it would make more sense. But that can I see where Cloud going with it, where that could be dangerous when you tell somebody that they cutting everybody off and it's okay to be single forever. I could see somebody being single for the rest of their life based off of the way he made that explanation.
Let me get Nelson in there. Nelson, what are you thinking? What are your thoughts?
Okay.
Then I go to Hank.
Yeah, I think his heart was in the right place. I do think that women should have a standard, but I think it's being misconstrued in today's, like, how we view things, to where it's more like requirements. There's a lot of unrealistic requirements that women are having that's kind of tripping them up. So when you start going into a standard is, I want a God-fearing man and of good character. Those are positive standards that a woman should have, that you should want. It starts going left when it's like, now I'm defining what all of those things individually look like. So now I'm defining a man of God as he has to be a minister. He has to walk around and have this aura about him and lead. He has to be the leader of everybody. We hear a lot of talk about men being these leaders, and they see that as somebody that has this magnetic personality. That's not every man of God. There are some that are humble and meek, and you wouldn't be able to pick them out of a crowd. Doesn't make them any less of a man. But I think these unrealistic requirements start creeping in, and then they misconstrue what the pastor was saying and then view themselves as a prize. Now that they got these standards and these requirements, now they are some form of a prize, when really they're a good thing. I mean, somebody quoted that scripture earlier. That's exactly what it is. If you find a wife, it's a good thing, and you've obtained favor of the Lord. Not that you've acquired this great treasure or this great prize that you now have to submit to everything that they're saying and live up to their expectations of you. That's completely, I think everything's been completely twisted to where a lot of women end up staying single because they follow what these pastors say, your standards or your requirements should be, and it's not really actually rooted in anything that is really biblical or of God.
You got some real quickly, Kyle?
So
Yeah. Can I just, you mind, Hank, if I just jump in real quickly?
Go ahead.
Like, I appreciate what he said, and I wanted to give an analogy of like the difference between like, I think what is standards and behaviors, right? So anybody can learn about eating healthy, right? I can read a million books about eating healthy. Now, a change in standard would be I no longer eat fast food, right? But me changing the standard of eating fast food is not going to automatically make there be more health food restaurants, right? So it's not about my standard changing, it's about my behavior changing. The behavior that needs to change is I need to start preparing my own meals. But and that's the issue that I kind of have, and I think that's what he's talking about. It's like everyone's focused on the standards and requirements. They want the world around to change. They keep telling the women, well, change where you shop at, or change where you eat at, instead of telling them, well, cook at home. Because if you cooked more, you would attract what you wanted. If you changed your behaviors, you would attract what you wanted. But you're trying to raise your standards while keeping the same behaviors. And that's why the pool's getting smaller. But the pool would widen if you just simply change your behaviors. If you start jogging, you know what I mean? You're going to start meeting people who jog. You get what I'm saying? Like you don't have to say, oh, well, I'm not going to drive the car anymore. You don't have to say, well, I'm not going to ride, I'm not going to eat any candy ever again. No, you could just start jogging. Simple. Just change something in your behavior. And that's it. It's not about changing your standard. But yeah, I'll land there. Back to Hank.
All right, go ahead, Hank.
So what I'm gonna say, most women don't have standards. All right, so you can't raise something you don't have. And the ones that do, they got it, it's written in pencil. And I'm some bitches gonna change it soon as the right man come their way. They're not gonna hold to it. So you can't raise your standards if you don't have any. So sad for them. But as far as what he was saying, singleness is not a curse. Yeah, it is. It is a curse. Because like Luis and Nelson repeated, you find a woman finds a good thing. So that let me know, yeah, marriage is the promised land. I don't agree with what he said about that. Now, I think he's saying that because he knows he's going to have women in his congregation more likely going to be forever single. They'll never find a man. And that man's going to be him, the pastor. They're going to love him. They're going to lust over him. They're going to fantasize about him, think about him on a regular basis because they know they're not going to get a man outside of him. Why? Maybe because of what they consider their standards. They're overinflated standards. The standards they know no man on this earth would ever meet. So they forever look at the pastor because he's not going to tell you all his faults. He's not going to let you know where he's falls short. Not for real. He's going to give you some shallow shit. Yeah, he has struggled with drinking a little bit too much. Maybe gambling. But he's not going to tell you about the mother struggle, how he was addicted to corn. How he was out there smoking rock. Shooting up lines. Had a taste of that sugar booger every once in a while back in the day. He's not going to tell you those. He's going to tell you that shallow shit. You know what I'm saying? So I look at it like this, man. What he's doing and what he's saying is I think, like Clout was saying, he's appeasing to who his audience really is. And for the younger people in church, them younger people from 18 to 25, they not really in church like that no more. It's sad, but it is what it is. Now, once they get in them 30s, then life start lifing, and they deal with some consequences in life, some challenges. Yeah, now they go ready to find the Lord. But by then, they 2 kids in and a couple baby daddies. And now they trying to get right and pray that he bless me with one. Somebody going to come bail them out. Somebody going to come save them. More likely it won't happen. And you know who's going to be your man from here on out. Pastor Jenkins. I'll leave it there.
So Hank, he was answering a question. If they asked you that question, what advice would you have given her?
Given the women?
No, that the woman because there was an example that he was given by one of the hosts, and they asked him that question. So, like, what advice would you give him for that woman that is now, like, she's been delivered, she's saved, and now she's choosing to live her life like this? Like, what advice would you give her?
Well, it depends on what she's trying to do. Now, she's trying to find a husband, or she just trying to continue to live right.
Nah,
Now, if she continue,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, if she's trying to continue to live right, keep doing what she's doing. Following the word, live by it, stand by it. And reach and preach to the young ladies, to help them come up and make a different decision like that she didn't make. Talk about the consequences that she had to face be due to her decisions. Now, if she's looking for a man, then he might need to sit down and have a one-on-one conversation and say, "Let me see the standard, this list you looking for." And he probably gonna need to go out and he's gonna need to get a red, that red pen we all used to see when in school. When shit wasn't right, they crossed out that red pen. We'll get that red pen out and help her out. Said, ma'am, look, some of these standards are way outrageous, and you and I both know this. And some of these standards you expect, are you willing to meet those standards yourself? If the shoe was on the other foot, would you be willing to meet those? Yeah. More likely, she probably wouldn't. So how you expect a man going to do this, but you're not willing to do this? So he needs to help out by doing that for her. Like I said, it depends on what she's looking for or what is her end goal.
Content with that too, bro, because the culture needs to hear that marriage is not the promised land, bro. Jesus was a single man. Paul was a single man. And this is why Jesus taught in the scriptures. He said he taught about marriage in the scriptures, and then he said that, I'm just going to paraphrase. I don't want to get all preachy. Everybody should not get married. He actually says some of y'all should stay single. Then he gives an example about 3 different types of eunuchs, right? So he actually taught us in the word that marriage is a serious commitment before God. And because God takes it so serious, some of y'all should stay single and not feel bad about being single. Because some people are praying for something they're not ready for. And they're asking God for something they don't have the character to sustain. They don't understand the commitment it takes to be married or the work it takes to be. Getting married is easy, bro. Staying together is far more difficult.
So now that he phrased it that way and saying that marriage is, according to him and by his religion, marriage is a serious covenant. And he says in the Bible, it states that it's not meant for everybody. So if somebody can't take marriage serious and they shouldn't be married, they should just remain single. Do you guys agree with that statement?
Does anybody know what scripture that was where he's instructed people not to get married?
Yeah, I'm trying to find that.
I honestly don't think it exists.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat said
that.
Matthew
Matthew
19.
19.
I'm looking through it now.
Yeah, please get that because I think he might have missed.
So I guess the last part I could agree with what he's saying. If they're not willing to take it serious, no, they probably don't. They probably don't need to be married. They probably need to remain single if they can't take it legitimate and the covenant serious. Yeah, I agree with that part.
Go ahead, Kenny. What did you say? Did you say the scripture?
1 Corinthians 7. Yeah. 1 Corinthians 7.
Can you read it? You know what it says? Does anybody have it in front of them? You got it in front of you?
You on mute. You on mute, Kenny.
You're on mute, Kenny.
It is good for them to remain single as I am, but if they cannot exercise self-control, they should marry. I wish that all were I myself am. So it references it there as for what he was speaking about.
But in Corinthians, is that a gospel or no? I'll figure it out.
What was the question, Sean? You was kind of low.
I don't think Corinthians is a gospel.
Yeah.
So that's
Yes. 1 Corinthians 7.
So if everybody
wrote it, it wasn't.
So if everybody is not meant to be hitched off in marriage, right? Especially in a time in this kind of time period, right? Our society is not really built for 50 and 60-year-old bachelors and bachelorettes, right? But although people will not be married, they will still be attached to someone as a life partner. Maybe not a covenant, under God, but I don't expect people to just be quote unquote single.
All right, let me get this. We got a couple of super chats came in. Gina 789 $2 says facts. Cloud, he's speaking BS. Gina again 789 $2 says facts. Marcus. Thank you, Gina, for your contribution. Let me go ahead and get this number 6 up right quick.
Men, would you say that just generally, if we can just generalize it,
Yeah.
are most men called to marriage?
I would say it's probably good for most men to marry. I think the word calling is a very strong word. Again, Christ was a single man. Paul was a single man. Paul was called to singleness. Christ was called to singleness. So there are people in life who are called to singleness. They have the gift of celibacy. I ain't got that gift, bro. You know what I'm saying? I ain't got the gift of celibacy. I think that's a very rare gift to find a man walking around who's not thinking about digging around in somebody's cookie jar. And because most men don't have the gift of celibacy, I think they should consider being married so that they're not running around here just dropping babies everywhere that we're not going to take care of. We're not ruining the lives of women that we don't want to be with. Like, that's the world that I came out of, right? Come on, bros. Can we just be honest?
Yes.
All right, so come on, man. Like, I came out of that world of stick and move. You know how many lives I've done damage doing that? These are the things I regret. Why am I doing that? Because I don't have that gift of celibacy, right? So I think I won't say all men are called to marriage, because Paul was not and Jesus was not, but I would say most men should marry. It'll be better for them to marry than to be out here damaging the lives of women, because I have not met a man personally that have the gift of celibacy. And if you don't have the gift of celibacy, you're thinking about digging around in cookie jars. And if you're thinking about digging around in cookie jars, you should find a woman to love and marry that woman, that somebody brought into your life. Because if we don't do that, we do what men are known for. We sticking and moving, we bobbing and weaving. We dropping babies everywhere that we don't taking care of, and we ruining lives along the way.
Generationally ruin lives.
Come on, brother.
What do you guys think about that? If men can't remain sexually disciplined, then they need to be married.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just think
I
that
think that's his perspective.
having to do
Absolutely
with
disagree.
the kids, like, I can understand. I mean, men that get married can still have trouble with staying married or not cheating or stepping out or doing whatever they do. I think the major part of that is the kids that come into play, and now you got these fatherless households. So for men that don't have that discipline, yeah, they probably should marry.
I disagree with that entirely. I think that if you lack sexual discipline, then the last thing you should do is commit to someone that you're going to be in a relationship that requires sexual discipline. Like, I think it's one thing to be someone who's just, uncommitted, out there doing uncommitted things. But I think it's very different to be someone who's committed doing uncommitted things. So I think a lot of people have this idea that somehow getting married is going to make them sexually disciplined, or somehow that's going to, set them on the right path. And another thing I disagree with that he said, which not 100%, but a little bit, it's the wording of it. He said that, like, it's good for men to be married. And I think he was kind of trying to reference how the Bible says that man who finds a wife finds a good thing. But I just want to point out that he has to find her as a wife. It's not the man who gets married gets a good thing. It's the man who finds a wife. But a wife is what she is by design before he gets her. And that's why it's such a good thing to find her in that state. You get what I'm saying? So it all goes back to what I was saying before. It's all about the behavior. If your behaviors are that of a wife, then your pool will be full of husbands. I can use the closest person I can use as an example is my own mother. My mother was married. My mother was married. The person she was with cheated, ended up asking for a divorce. My mother never got into relationships. After that, the next person she was with, she was married to, you know, and then after my father passed away, the next man that literally every man that meets my mom literally wants to marry her. And the reason why is because she's a wife. She's a good woman. And that's just the energy she attracts. Like there's never, like my mom's single now, but even the guys that try to introduce themselves to me or like are trying to get to know my mom, they're all trying to marry her. You know what I mean? Like nobody's just trying to date or anything. Like they're all like actively trying to court. So I think that the behavior of the woman determines the type of attention that they attract. And it's always going to be that. It's not about the standards. It's about the standard she holds herself to, not the standard she holds the man to.
All right. Who else said they disagreed? Who was that? Go ahead, Law.
Yeah, I ain't really disagree. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where I feel like at some point he kind of talking out both sides of his mouth. You know what I mean? When you're saying one thing like, oh, everybody should, don't have to be married. But then if you ain't married, it's your fault. Basically, you know what I mean? Like that's what I took out of it. You know, it's one of those things where, they just get on these like anybody else, get on these interviews and just get to talking and don't realize they be contradicting themselves a little bit. But whatever you gotta, whatever it takes to make you mentally strong, I'm with. You know what I'm saying? If that's gonna help somebody, by all means, go right ahead. But I feel like he was talking out of both sides of his mouth.
No, I kind of
and I would like to repeat. I would like to repeat what Trev said earlier. Like all men are not a monolith. Like we all don't rock to the same tune. And if he wants to subscribe to the Bible and his biblical thoughts and Christianity and how he wants to move, then that's on him. But if you go to West Africa, there's men out there with multiple wives. If you go to the Middle East, men have multiple wives. I'm not sure if it's just to satisfy their sexual desires, but that may be the thing, but it may not be. But I just feel like we always put emphasis on men's sexual discipline and marriage and all of this stuff. But at the end of the day, as we all know, as adults, you could design your life to however you want it to be. There's women out there that'll say, hey, baby, I want to bring this girl in the bedroom with us and we gonna all have a good time. You know what I'm saying? I'm not here to judge them to say that they're right or wrong. I'm going to say, hey, if both of y'all consent to it, that's on you. If you're consenting adults and ain't no children, involved or whatever, that's on you. But there's also single people that are promiscuous, that don't have kids, never caught a disease or whatever. They protect themselves and they go about their life. But I just feel like however that man wants to design his life, he should go ahead and be that example. You need to get married, pastor. You need to show us your wife, your children, and we will more than likely follow you. But a lot of these people that come out with thesis that they're not even following themselves. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh, honor the black women, protect black women, but you don't have a black wife and you in your mid 30s, almost 40 years old. I don't want to hear that shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? I don't care about if a man goes, steps out, whatever, bro. That's not my business. That's on some guys, they want to, I'm just going to keep it all the way honest, but there's men out there that will come up to you and say, hey, man, I want to watch you have sex with my wife. You know what I'm saying? To me, that's crazy. It never happened to me, but I just heard about this. It's crazy. People do that shit. But it's like, am I to
had one on the show
for what gets them off? You know what I'm saying? No, I'm not to judge that. You know what I'm saying? But
we had one on the show.
Oh, I don't know. Shit.
A cuck or a bull?
Whoa, hey, yo.
But yeah, pause on that. But I'm just saying that.
Remember the episode? Something in my tooth.
Oh, no. Be the example that you want people to see. Be the best you can at that example and just call it a damn day. You know what I'm saying? That's all that we can do as human beings. We're all going to fall short.
Yeah, I still don't like. So I don't agree with the damage part. I'm struggling with this. I don't see how consensual sex is damaging the woman. Like, because that would mean the basic desire of men is to go out and hurt women. If we're damaging them by having consensual sex, I just don't. I can't jive with that. You know.
So Marcus, check this out. I'm gonna say, just in my run-ins, even with being like 100% transparent about the situation, like, yeah, you know what this is, da 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 da. Some of these women just grow attached. I mean, maybe sometimes you just got to dial it back with the D, you know what I mean, or whatever. But I don't know. I'm not a dial it back guy. So whatever. Sometimes these women grow attached, man, and there's nothing you can do about it. And they thinking about you, and they hitting you up when they wake up, and they hitting you up right before they go to sleep, and you can't really help that. No matter what you tell them, sometimes they just want more of you. And when they realize they can't have it, no matter how you came into to the situation, um, it hurts them because they can't have you, even though you told them, even though it was full disclosure. I'm sure every gentleman or most of us have experienced where we were forthcoming, and then if you told the female what it was, but it didn't matter, she still caught feelings, she still was greatly attached, and she just couldn't let the situation go. It
That don't
happens
mean you
sometimes.
damaged her.
Um, Psychologically, you've likely done some damage. You, hey, if you don't think so, you don't think that she's damaged because she's
No, she's hooked because you did something good. That's why she's hooked. You didn't
But
damage
but
her.
if she, but if she
She's
in
hooked
turn,
But
because
you
you
know, it
gave her.
causes.
but if she, all right. So here's the problem: if she in turn can't let go of that feeling and she can't have you, it's going to have an effect on her next relationships, right? Especially, we always talk about how men um, don't want to be compared to the last person, or whatever. She's going to be using you as a barometer. She's going to be chasing that high the next time, and when that guy can't do what you did, it's a problem. You know what I'm saying? So I think if we
It's
continue
not
to
my
do
business.
that, right, and we get a bunch of them going, I think we're kind of perpetuating the issue. If we do it a lot, right? Like if we're going, we running through it, which, I mean, listen, I'm not here to judge anybody, but I just want us to be aware of what the potential consequences are when we do that. We have to be real about it. When we do that, there's a thing like before women's oxytocin receptors are fried, they experience that pair bonding, right? And no matter how we go into a situation, they're gonna feel that, and although it may be inadvertent, I don't think anyone over here is maliciously trying to damage women, but inadvertently, it's a consequence.
You know what it is. That's why we talk about the body count, man. You know it does matter. It's causing emotional damage every
Period.
time they're with somebody, and they say they can't get them. It doesn't work out. That's emotional damage, and then so on. And now we talk about the baggage. So yeah, I get it. You know what I'm saying? I could see how that can cause damage, but I mean, it is.
So
Yeah, but if
I
we
still, this is what I struggle
Makes
with the
the
damage
assumption
part.
like that women don't leave. I mean, like,
You're right. This the part I struggle with on the damage part. If I rode in a Rolls Royce and I enjoyed the car, because I can't buy the car, did the car damage me?
right.
If I had a good experience and I enjoyed what this experience was, because I didn't get everything I wanted specifically out the experience, I'm damaged now. I just, it does not coincide to me. Now I get if you was leading somebody on, making them think that this was going to develop into a relationship, and then you pull the rug from up under them. Okay, yeah, you damaged that person. You gave them a false anticipation. You kind of like lied by omission and all that stuff. Okay, I get that. That could be damaging to somebody. But two adults engaging in consensual sex that they wanted to have, I just, like, I'm not even being facetious. I really don't see how that's damaging women unless you're lying to them and leading them on. That's maybe that's just me. I don't know.
Well, see,
Yeah,
Marcus, the
and
only
what
thing
do you
we
I
can't
mean,
we
what
can't
y'all
really
really
pair
ain't talking
bond with a
about
car.
is
okay?
You know what
So
I'm saying?
I got
I
a
feel like it's a
question.
little different with material things because we can't pair bond with the car, right? We do
Right.
have somewhat of
Yeah.
an emotional
You,
connection,
you of all
but
people
it's
know you
different.
damn sure buying with a car, bro. Knock
I
it the fuck off.
I
Knock
get
it
it.
the fuck off.
I get it,
When my
but
69
it's not the
colors
same.
burned up, I
I done
damn near
crashed up
cried.
some hot shit before, and I was pissed, but I ain't cry. You know what I'm saying? These women sometimes will cry for days. It's an emotional tear, bro. I think we might be underestimating the emotions of women sometimes, right? And sometimes it happens to men. Sometimes it happens to men, but I think that a lot more it happens with women where they get that emotional bond that's tough to let go, and it has an effect, definite impact on their future relationships.
So I would
So
manage
if
that. I think I spoke about this before when I was saying, I'm sorry, I would manage that.
nah,
And
bro.
I spoke about this. I spoke about this before about not putting yourself in situations where she think it's leading into a relationship. You can manage those expectations before it gets to that point. And if you feel like it's going to a point where she's starting to like you too much, then you have to separate so you don't damage the person. So that's the perspective I'm coming from, that you're taking measures to try not to damage the person. So maybe I just don't see it as
So
damage.
Marcus,
As a matter of
I
fact,
agree with
some
you.
of these women I feel
So,
like are better off after the situation because now they got, yeah.
but I
Go ahead,
mean, bro,
Lapeef.
you gotta know. That's why we talk about body count, bro. Every time. I'm not talking about the particulars of, what I'm saying, but think if it's 8 versus somebody with 1 or 2, that's more damage. That's more, you know what I'm saying? Like emotional damage. Even if it's all good experiences, that many experiences, don't you look at it like, I'd rather have somebody with less experiences because of the potential drama?
To keep it all the way a bill, I think that shit got more to do with men's ego than the damage because you don't want to imagine all these other niggas going inside your girl. I think that's more to do with it than she just damaged by having sex with someone. That's just my personal opinion.
I'm
Nah,
looking at
that's real talk. It's your ego, more than anything.
I'm looking at the
You saying like,
dynamic
oh
that
man,
he
all these
put out
dudes
there.
fuck my girl more than Oh, go ahead, Kenny. My
Yeah.
bad.
But I'm looking at the dynamic that what he puts out there, not everyone is meant for marriage. So now, since everybody's not meant for marriage, they out here roaming these streets. They got to do something. So now, what are you encouraging? Being the pastor. Now, everyone was meant for marriage. Were they meant to be celibate or abstain for the rest of their lives? So now you open the door. So, okay, so what are they supposed to do? They're not supposed to be betrothed. So what? Human nature and feelings go out the door. They're not supposed to do
Don't
anything.
procreate.
What were we put here for? Clout?
No, I'm just saying, procreate when you're married. If you're not married, just fuck.
You
Don't procreate.
were put here to be fruitful and multiply.
Multiply. Thank you. Thank you.
If you're not married, don't be fruitful. It's gonna be bad fruit.
I mean, bro, all of this stuff is easier said than done, bro. But come on. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be real with this shit, bro. Like, some dudes are gonna slip up, get a random woman pregnant, and more than likely, hopefully
I
they
think it's
handle their
easier done than
business, but it's
said,
gonna
man.
happen. No, all right. I like it, but it's like a lot of these dudes say, well, not, I don't know you like that, Clout, but like a lot of people say this after the fact, you know what I'm saying? But when you were out there in your 20s hunting, doing what you got to do, you made a lot of decisions that God probably like saved you from, you know what I'm saying? Like, damn, man, I'm drunk, I hit that raw, you know what I'm saying? Thank God she didn't get pregnant. But on the flip side, I have friends that I know personally that got drunk, had sex with a woman one time and had a baby by her. And that could have happened to anybody on this panel. I guarantee it. You know what I'm saying? So just because you were given grace and you were saved, and now you look back and be like, damn, man, I can't believe these dudes are doing that. Come on, man. Let's be real. And I'm not even going to talk about
biology
abortions.
works, man.
You said what?
I said you also got to know how biology works, man. Once you understand the human body and how sex works, it's pretty easy to not procreate unless you want to.
All right.
Just saying, like, when you're like when you're handling it with like some grace and care, it's pretty easy to not create a kid you don't want. It's not hard to not create kids you don't want.
Oh,
So what methods?
I don't believe in this idea that people accidentally made a kid and like people say this shit like, oh, it was pre-cum. No, it wasn't. It wasn't pre-cum. You nutted it. You knew what you was doing. You was in a moment and you was like, yeah, bitch, I'm gonna give you a baby. And you nutted in that thing. And that's why you had a kid. You didn't have a kid because a little bit one's rogue sperm made it through your pre-cum and happened. No, come on, like, we're adults here. We know how babies get made, and it's not by a little drizzle of niggas pre-cum. It's because niggas be splashing.
Absolutely. It absolutely can be from that.
It
Trust me.
can,
How
but
many
we
you
all
got,
know in
Clout?
reality that's not what's happening out here. In reality, the niggas that got babies that aren't married is because they splashing in coochie that don't belong to them. They
No,
smashing
that's
in coochie that they
absolutely
didn't
not
marry.
true, bro. I got 4 kids and none of my kids were playing. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes it was like, what the fuck? You pregnant? Yeah.
They might not have been playing, but I bet you I know exactly how they happened.
I mean, of course.
Hey,
You know,
Cloud.
you was going in
Cloud,
raw.
you
You know
never
what I
had
mean?
some hella fried poutine? Huh? You never
Of
had
course,
some
I have fire poontang.
got to go back
What
there
I'm saying is,
barefoot?
what I'm
Huh?
saying is, I'm also an adult, bro, and it's like I also know that I don't want kids, so my pullout game is immaculate, and
Oh,
and
you
it's
don't
not
have
if
kids.
you want to jump all in it, do your thing. But if you're a grown man, you should be able to control your nut. I think, like we all in
Yeah,
our
You never
30s.
been on a
No,
my God, you
I'm
never
just
been
saying
with
we
a
all in
girl
our
named
30s. So I
Sunshine?
feel like,
Clout,
especially if you're in your 30s, I mean, you should be able to control your nut.
Yo, my
Am
God, you
I
never
talking
had
too
a
So,
heavy?
girl
so
that could
Clout,
So,
you
Clout, I
never
think what they're
Cloud,
getting
you
at.
never had a
Clout, do you
girl that
have
could do you
kids?
dirty?
Do me dirty? Her have more control over me than I got over me? What are you talking? You serious
So,
right now?
yeah,
Clout, this is what we trying to get. Have you ever nutted in a snatch raw before in your life?
Of course I have.
Then
What are
you
you
could have
talking
got.
about? Of course I have.
Okay, and that's all we saying.
But
That's all we
never.
saying.
But listen. Never in a situation where it could have led to a child.
Shit. Why not? Why?
Because I
She
don't
told
want
you
no
she was on birth
kids.
control? Because she told
She
you
had a
she was on birth
vasectomy?
control, right?
yeah, but hold on. I
Hold
think
on.
the biggest equation of this,
How old are we then?
the biggest thing of this conversation is the conversation that people are not having before they have sex. They're like, I'm in this situation, you're in this situation, I'm not financially set, or I'm in school, or I'm doing this and that. We don't want kids right now. So let's have this
Nigga,
conversation
I
about where
don't want
we
kids.
are. Yeah, but see, this is the thing about it, Clout. People are not talking about this. They're just meeting each other and then they're going at it. They're not talking about, hey, like we should use protection. You know what I'm saying? We should talk about different forms of contraceptives, etc. They're not having these conversations. They're just meeting and going at it and YOLO, rolling the dice, and whatever the play is, the play is. Like, I mean, let's just call a thing. Like, the more we have
Hence
these
society
conversations, the
being where
more I
it's
sit
at.
back introspectively, and these people are not having these conversations.
You just can't. I keep thinking about all these
Like, what's
random
that?
occurrences, right? Like, like one day we was in our dorm room and these girls just showed up at the door ready to get it cracking. Never knew them from nothing. They just popped up at our dorm room door because the athletes stayed in the same room. So y'all mean to tell me that we damaged these girls that got in their mind, found out where we live, came to the dorm room, walked in, got naked. We hurt them. Get the fuck out of here.
Marcus.
I
So
just,
we're not saying everybody.
That's
No
just what
way,
the women
because
want to hear.
she
That's
was
why
already
it's good.
gone. Them joints be already gone. We talking about that good girl. I noticed you said you avoid any woman with a V card, right? So I get that. But there's some woman who might have like maybe one body or maybe two bodies or something like that. That's more likely to grow attached to you. You know what I'm saying? Like that type shit.
In the chat, they was telling me to look up Matthew 19:11-12. This is the MSG, but it says, but Jesus said, not everyone is mature enough to live a married life. It requires a certain aptitude and grace. Marriage isn't for everyone. Some from birth seemingly never get married a thought. Others never get asked or accepted. And some decide not to get married for kingdom reasons. But if you're capable of growing into the largeness of marriage, do it.
You said Matthew 19, what?
But
Matthew 19, right here. Matthew 19:11-12.
11 and
Yeah,
12.
we must have different Bibles because mine don't say nothing like that.
Listen, at the end of the day, after you read that and then you get the message, you still out here in this cursed land with a stiffy, and you ain't supposed to do nothing with it, huh? Yeah, all right.
Angela Swift 1999 says for cloud example. Thank you, Angela Swift. Let me go ahead and play this clip.
Conundrum though, because
Well,
I don't feel like most of our culture is able to or was given the gift of celibacy.
They have not.
We in sex culture right now, knee
Right.
deep in it.
Yeah.
So this is just proof that we not really built for celibacy. And if most men, if we would say most men should, it's probably better for them to get married.
I think so.
I would also assume that you probably believe that most women should probably also get married. Maybe because they probably also don't have, do women have the gift of celibacy more than us brothers?
No, see, I can't answer that question because, you know, I don't have enough knowledge of everybody in the culture to answer that question. But I've never met a woman with the gift of celibacy, nor have I met a man with the gift of celibacy. I think anyone who has the gift of celibacy, that maybe that person has definitely been called to singleness. And then I think there are some people, hear me, who do not have the gift of celibacy, but are still called to singleness. So there's a woman whose husband has died, and God tells her, don't remarry. But I want you to serve me now with the rest of your life. She may not have the gift of celibacy, but now she has to take her urges and put that on the altar for the sake of the Lord. And she's going to have to be single, right? And so I think that like for example, right? I have a young sister who's a friend of mine. Y'all know her. I think she's been on this podcast, Megan, right?
Oh, yeah,
Right.
definitely.
So Megan and I have known each other since Bible college, right? I've known Megan for like 15 years.
Wow.
Right. And so Megan and I knew each other before anybody knew who we were, right? And so, Megan right now, she's a celibate woman. She's honoring the Lord with her body. She's not out here letting people dig around her cookie jar, Megan is one of the young ladies who my wife and I get a chance to disciple and pour into in love, and she is in private doing her best to try to honor God with her body. Do I believe Megan has the gift of celibacy? No, right? Because she's been married before. She's told her own story, right? But she's honoring God right now. So although she doesn't have the gift of celibacy in this season, God has called her to singleness in this season. So she's taking her urges and put that on the altar for the sake of honoring God. She's not trying to live a duplicitous life. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So I think there are people who have the gift of celibacy who are called to singleness, and there are people who don't have that gift, but whatever season to end, God may still be calling them to singleness. So they got to now sacrifice for the Lord, because we like Savior, but we don't like Lord. And so they have to sacrifice now for the Lord, the master of my life, and take my urge and put that on the altar because he is my Lord. And they're going to have to keep sacrificing that urge on the altar until God sends them a husband or a wife, if it is God's will for them to marry again. Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of
This is
sense.
called suffering well. Because what we can't do is have an American Christianity that thinks that God is only concerned about my happiness. He is not, bro. God is more concerned about my holiness than my happiness. He's more concerned about my character than my comfort. And so this is us learning how to, watch this, live well and suffer well. The true believer knows how to live well or is growing to live well, but the true believer has to learn to also suffer well. Life is a conveyor belt of pain and hurt and disappointment. And for the believer, for any person who's truly following Christ, if you're truly following Christ, you're always going to be holding two things in your hands at the same time: joy and sorrow, right? Times of ease and times of struggle, times of blessing and times of pain. We hold these things in our life simultaneously. Right now in my life, I'm holding a season of great favor and blessing, and at the same time, I'm holding a season of pain. A season of great blessing and favor and a season of great hardship and struggles and trials. And so right now in my life, I am trying to live well, but I'm also trying to suffer well. Does that make sense? And so that's a long answer, but if people don't got the gift and God is calling to be single in that season, they got to learn how to suffer well. And that's if he's Lord. For too many people, he's Savior, but he's not Lord.
He sound very poetic. I give him that.
He's a bit theatrical. Doing that whole watch
spitting
this
game.
concept.
Miss me, miss me,
In that game.
miss me. You supposed to
All I
tighten
heard
it
was
up
words.
until you see a burning bush. Then you know Jamal is over there and you could go get some. You missed me with that.
So what did you guys?
Offering.
He
Until
was
the
talking a
skies
lot
open
about
and it
some
rains.
woman's celibacy as a married man. He like, yeah, man, Shorty Meg been locking down that coochie for a while, man. You know, me and my wife, man. You don't get your ass out of here with
You
that
talking about
bullshit,
Megan
man.
Good?
Talk about his friend Meg that used to let him smash back in the day. Now she's celibate. Get the fuck out of here, man.
I would quickly ask him, have you suffered? Have you not stuck your pickle in a woman and waited for a burning bush? Huh?
He said he was out
Tell
here.
me what
His
your
He
story
answer
is.
would be,
he
well,
said he was
I
out
don't.
here for a
I have
while.
not been given the gift of celibacy.
He said he was what?
He
He
was
was
out
given
here.
the gift
He
of
has been
intimacy,
He was
given
like
giving it
all
up.
of us.
celibacy.
He said he
Yeah,
was
like
out here
you said,
smoking
like,
it, man.
yeah, if you listen to the podcast, he said he had like over 100 women. He said he was getting to it before he met his wife. I did put the link in the back
That
chat.
nigga getting to it now,
So
man.
Skipper,
That's why he started the church. He started the church
so
so he get
JR,
to it some more.
how could you and your wife, after you being a whoremonger like that, you're coaching a woman to stay keep her chastity until you get
They
a
keeping
call
it
He's
for
trying to
him.
keep his.
from
He's just trying to
He
keep
on
his
high
in line,
level
bro.
pimping now, player. He playing the game on the highest level. You dig?
and I'm not playing because I know Nelson's a religious man, so I'm not gonna play with it. You understand? But I can't certain concepts.
Oh,
You
shit.
understand? There's a cause and effect. You started with the one that said, okay, not everyone was meant to be married. Okay, good. But what are they just supposed to stay idle?
Oh, they supposed to
Now
serve in
you
the church.
saying, yeah, but now you saying this woman is supposed to suffer, willfully suffer, so that she could show the Lord her devotion until such time. And you
She
and your
gotta
wife
hold
coach
it
her
down
through it.
until Pastor need her to show some devotion. She gonna have to suffer. That's all. Yeah, man. When the Lord speaking through the pastor, of course, needs a little devotion. Because he's only a man that the Lord speaks through. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, but like I said before, a lot of these dudes bring this up after the fact. Meg is probably 40 years old and not even in her prime time years. You know what I'm saying? So it's easy for her to be celibate. But tell that to like a 18-year-old, a 20-year-old, like, come on, man, this isn't real. This isn't even logical. You know what I mean? Like women say, I'm saving myself for the Lord. I'll be like, all right. You know what I mean? Like, fuck out of here.
Sure.
Like we not.
Let me get Nelson in there. See if you want
You know
to
what
add
I'm
anything else.
the Lord don't want it. He don't.
No, I mean he's speaking from a Christian point of view, and I respect that. So it's not going to be received well by people that don't subscribe to the faith. So I think that part is obvious. Part of what he is doing is a bit theatrical. Somebody had made a comment that I thought was really good. I think it was a Belly said that not engaging in sin is not suffering, and I think that's a good way to put it. I mean, the lifestyle that you're called to try to engage in, or that you're supposed to be pursuing as a Christian, is going to be different. It's going to look, to everybody on the outside, everybody in the world, it's going to look like craziness. It's going to look unattainable, and to a certain extent, it is. It's something that you are constantly pursuing. You're constantly trying to get perfected. So I understand what he's saying. He did start engaging in some of like that preacher speak where he's saying to watch this and stuff like that. But I think the heart of his message is something that's going to be antithetical to the culture or the way things are established now. So I hear what he's saying. I didn't have any problems with it.
So Nelson, I got a question for you. I think we discussed this a long time ago when I was telling you I was kind of like working through a theory in my head where I was saying that the people like how I think sexual access or sexual desire or fetish or fantasy is linked to success or power. So like the people who need these extreme things can't get it until they have a certain amount of power. So they build systems around them to get to or work their way up into a situation where they can exercise whatever sexual fantasy or desire it is. I'm not saying he doing this or any, but I do think it's something there. Like I said, I'm working through it. Maybe it's a clinical term for this, but the amount of priests that swore off sex and then found out they was messing with children, like I don't like. Not only do you not want to have, so you saying you can't have sex with women, and then you end up having sex with children, little boys and stuff. Like something is there. I can't really put it all together. What I'm trying to,
I mean,
I think that's just a fetishization of purity.
Men struggle with lust. A lot of men struggle with lust. I mean, that is kind of the foundation point of it. Struggling with lust, the problem with that is the more you give into that, the more that you feed that. Lust doesn't just have to be men lusting after women, because lust is lust. So anything that is considered a sexual act, once it starts entering into your system, once you start feeding yourself different types of things, you start to get bored with the normal things. You're always seeking the next extreme. If it is between men and women, then it's going from just regular intercourse to exploring with toys and getting into a bunch of other things. But if you continually feed lust itself, it will grow into something that's out of the confines of just men and women.
So I don't think I explained
what
I was
talking from experience.
correctly.
Nelson,
Well,
are you talking from experience?
I'm
Where are
speaking
you getting
from
this?
no, I'm speaking from the point of research into lust itself.
So Nelson, I think I might not have worded it right, because again, I'm kind of working through it. It's kind of a jumbled thought. What I was saying was, these people have taken a vow to abstain from all sex, like no sex whatsoever. How do you go from that to that perversion? And it seems like a concentration of these individuals seem to do this same thing. Like I can't really wrap my head around the relationship between swearing off sex, the power dynamic between the people who try and take advantage of the least us. I think when Klaus said it's a purity complex, I could see something to that. The other part of that is, damn, I lost my train of thought. It was all jumbled up. My fault. Damn.
To give my perspective, I think, in my opinion, I think anybody who's swearing off sex to begin with already has an unhealthy relationship with sex to begin with. And they're only swearing off sex as a way to disguise the fact that they have an unhealthy relationship. And I think it's actually the opposite of what Nelson said. Like Nelson was saying that the more you give in to lust, the more it does. And I actually don't think that's the case. I think the more you try to resist lust is the more that you try to, that you have these problems. And you'll find, like, for example, in a lot of these, I think somebody mentioned cuckolds, for example. A lot of the cuckolds, or a lot of the men who want to be submissive, for example, are actually men who have power in their real life. You get what I'm saying? And because their whole life exists with so much of power, sometimes abusive power, sometimes the thing that they're seeking is the exact opposite. So, yeah,
So, and you're saying feeding lust will help you to do what? Or you, because you said the exact opposite was what I was saying.
Well, I'm just saying, I think it's very possible that feeding lust actually helps to calm it, and trying to withhold it is actually what causes all these people to have these do these crimes and do all these heinous things, because they're trying to live this life of ultimate purity, and then they end up touching a kid because they're not feeding their lust in a healthy way. And so now they have to feed it in an unhealthy way. Whereas like a married couple that's having sex every night, I mean, they're not usually the ones that are out here, like doing weird shit, kidnapping people's kids. You know what I mean? It's usually when we think of somebody who's a predator, right? Usually there's someone who's sexually repressed. 9 times out of 10, like they're not usually someone who's super attractive and gets a lot of access to it. In most cases, when we see predators, there's somebody who's a little sexually repressed, a little socially awkward, a little weird. So, that's just the way I see it.
It's usually somebody that experienced a childhood trauma that was related to sex. That's where that tends to happen. If we're speaking from a research point of view, that's not something that's
possible. And
somebody's just repressed sexually.
I think that would support what I'm saying, though, because if they did have trauma from sexuality at a young age, then that means they would have shame associated with sexuality, which means then they would have a lot of feelings that they would want to repress, then causing those same feelings to come out in an unhealthy way later in
Not
other areas.
necessarily. Just because you had sexual trauma doesn't mean that you carry shame or guilt with this. For some people, it shifts them into a form of hypersexuality, and
which is often a way of dealing with that shame. It's a way of taking back the power or the shame of the experience they had with with the trauma that they had.
A lot of times, 100% linked to shame when it comes to childhood trauma and sexual trauma.
hear what he's saying.
Maybe not
So if y'all
100%, but a lot of the time that's the motivation behind it. It's because the person feels shame associated with what happened, and so they want to take back the power, and so they become hypersexuality to feel like they're now in control of their sexuality and that they can express their sexuality in a way that's not shameful to them.
Cloud, I think he's not diminishing your point. He's acknowledging it, but he said that's not the end all to be all, because there
I'm
are
agreeing.
different variances. As for your point is strong, but there are different variances as
I
for
agree.
cause and effect. Right, Nelson?
Yeah, no,
I agree.
trauma and sexual trauma is it's very nuanced, and it plays out differently in different people, based on their how they grew up, their family structure, exactly what they experienced and how they experienced it, and the format that they experienced it. So some sexual trauma that happens in the church is going to look different than a sexual trauma that happened within the family unit with an uncle or whoever. Like it's just, there's so many different nuances, and it causes there's not a standard way of responding to it, or a certain way that people respond to encountering those types of things. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, because if we mention Catholicism, that became an indoctrination, because they had a slew of them dudes taking them young booties and so on and so forth that are actually in hiding all now because the Catholic Church is so big. And that goes to Clout's point of view. That urge is something hard to hide. It's like, I gotta do something with this. And then,
It's in the
they
culture.
start getting crazy in the head. Yeah.
It's in the culture.
I
Altar
mean, but bro,
boys
it's
and
also
all.
in nature. If we watch animals, if you watch a dog that's sexually repressed, it's gonna start humping a teddy bear or humping the damn couch. You know what I'm saying?
Got
Like
to hump
we,
something,
like
your
we
leg.
as humans, yeah, like it's gonna try to get. You're like, oh, what's that pink thing? But it's like that's how God designed us. You know what I mean? But now in Western society, we're sexually repressed more than anything. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, don't do this because it's sin, or oh, women want this or mirror. It's like, damn, I'm just trying to get this shit off. You know what I'm saying? I don't know about all that other stuff. You know what I mean? Right now, my body is telling me, hey, bro, you got this fluid in you and you need to release it. Period.
So
I don't give a fuck
Sean,
about what you thinking about, what you talking about, whatever. This has to go. And I watched
right.
something a couple years ago where it was this, they were in Asia, and a lady traveled to this man's house and masturbated. He was disabled.
What?
So she masturbated him and he ejaculated because he didn't know how to do it himself. But they were like, he still feels this pressure and he has to let it go somehow, some way. You know what I'm saying? So I took that. I was like, damn, can you imagine a walking, talking, live, healthy man? It's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, we could say it's lust, we could say this, we could say that, but I say it's human nature telling you to reproduce. And if human nature did not have lust inside of it, and all of these different variables, I'm positive a lot of us will not be here today. You know what I'm saying? This is the way God designed it. It is what it is. My dad wasn't a horn dog, or I wasn't. I probably wouldn't have kids. A couple of us on the panel wouldn't have kids. It is what it is. That's the way nature designed it. But we want to put logic into nature, and sometimes that just doesn't mix. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, you can control your semen retention. Oh, this, oh, that. Nah, bro, I got to get this off.
Go ahead, and what?
Yeah, no, he was kind of speaking to something I was sitting here thinking about. Like, I don't know if anybody breed dogs or dealt with different dog breeds. Like, you can breed for specific character traits, like a drive, a prey drive. So that's when a dog really wants to chase and hunt down different animals and all this other stuff, or breed for a specific notion. The intelligence of the design of humans is immaculate. Every little small piece of us was put together in a way that only goes this way. I would really question why and men specifically, why our sex drive is the way it is, where even like in a when you see a woman walk by as a child, you still gonna follow like her shape. You know what I'm saying? Why is it that we weren't created to specifically be monogamous in a way like, say, birds are, where you find your mate, you stay with them for life, you never deal with anybody else?
That's only some birds.
Yeah. I got a lot of questions about that. I
No,
hope
Marcus,
I
you
get
have to
I,
have.
I'm
We're
right
never
with
meant
you
to
on
be
that.
with one person.
And even
I have my
it's
reasons.
weird because if we are not nutting, real talk, we are at higher risk for prostate cancer, which is like okay, or we like never. You know what I'm saying? Like when you start to think of shit like that, it gets cloudy because you're like, okay, why am I faced with this constant urge? Right? You might wake up with like a raging boner for no. Is that just for no reason? Are you supposed to just like ignore that shit? Or like what other urge do we generally ignore? Right? When you hungry, you eat. You thirsty, you drink. You know, why is it that we are supposed to be tempted with this so much to the point where it's a distraction and you have literally no control over it? It doesn't, and it's not even mental sometimes. It's just like a physical thing where you just like, damn, okay, like what am I supposed to do? Why is it that we are cursed with this urge that we are told we are supposed to constantly denounce?
And it's at its worst when your brain hasn't formed. I'm sure everybody done been in class and got a erection and couldn't stand up because you're like, oh shit, my shit is on. Let me stay seated. Like that's when we make the worst decisions in our life at that age. And then you compound that with the most sexual tension you could possibly have. I really got questions about that design. Like, what was the purpose? But that's
You
like
already know the answer. We weren't meant to be monogamous.
I don't think we're meant to be monogamous.
We're not meant to be monogamous. We only civilize ourselves to make that urge that we have go dormant, and most can't. Most just actually lie to themselves.
I mean, if you look at all the male figures in the Bible that were like the most used, the most honored, the most revered, that God called men after his own heart, they all had several wives, not just a little bit, not like 2 or 3. Like all these guys had north of 100 wives. So
wives and concubines.
And concubines. Yeah. So I don't, the Bible even has rules on how to be polygamous. Like it has rules on what you're supposed to give to each wife, how you can't love one more wife than the other one, or you can't give a portion to one wife more than the one that you love more. It has a whole guideline in there. So yeah, I don't know where this idea ever came about that men were necessarily supposed to be polygamous. I don't know where that came. I mean, I'm sorry, monogamous, or whatever the case is. I don't know where that came from, but I don't think it's correct.
It came from when the Europeans came, bro. Like the Greeks came up with that, which is like where
that
we get
right there,
the version of the Bible from. So they would have wives, and they'll like mess with boys on the side in what they call a gymnasium. Gymnasium is where they had little boys at, and they went in there and fondled the little boys. They said wives are for babies, men are for pleasure. You know what I'm saying? So that's where it happened. It came with European colonization.
Oh my God.
Yeah, look it up, bro.
I heard some shit about that, but I was afraid to look it up, bro.
Trev, don't do it.
Yeah, sounds about right. Sounds like something that happens around there.
Gina 789 $2 says I get attached. Gina again 79 $2 says yep, that's damage. Gina again says, so what you said,
damn Gina,
in my mind we together.
Marcus, you know her?
Gina 79 $2 says I don't want what he's talking about suffering.
Marcus, you still not with me on that? All right, look. So
you're talking about on the damage part?
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Absolutely.
All right, so Marcus, I just want to go ahead, and then I got to ask you a question. Go ahead.
The reason I think that my perspective on this is different is when it comes to like interacting with a girl that you potentially could be in a relationship with and all that stuff. Yeah, I get it. But there's a segment of women, a large segment, that I came in contact with who were having sex at their discretion for their own pleasure solely. Like you going to the town, you had sex with them like on the layover for the game, and it's no expectation to call them. It's no like they exist the same way men exist, is what I'm saying. And I don't think
so I get that, Marcus, but they already damaged. And the reason I'm going to use one of your points to make my point.
That don't mean somebody
specifically. You specifically told me, and you were on a panel or whatever. You said that you avoid virgins, but I would say why? Why do you avoid virgins?
So I avoid because if they haven't had any experience, so they probably will be attached in that specific whatchamacallit. Plus, if they have some type of religious or cultural value to it that they place on it, I don't want to take that from them without giving in return what they were expecting for that. So I don't want to be the person to sully them or remove the innocence from them in that manner.
Or damage them, right? It's the same kind of thing. And that's all I'm saying. It's the same kind of thing. So if let's say you just it's the same type of thing.
So if you got a car with 0 miles and you selling a car with 0 miles, that's one thing. Once you drive the car and it's got 4 miles on it, if you drive it to 5 miles, I don't see that as damaging the car. Like
No.
it don't depreciate more after.
So
after,
you're
right.
right. But what I'm saying is this. So let's just say she don't have her V card, right? However, she might have had like 1 long-term relationship, 2 long-term relationships. She might be really digging you, and her rules might be out the window for you because she's digging you like that, right? That happens. I'm sure that's happened with you. Once you cut the string, it's like she's gonna be feeling a way about it. That's all I'm saying. And I dig what you're saying, but the women who you are describing,
I got damaged by a woman before. I just thought about this when I was in college. This girl,
I made that point earlier that women damage us too. I said it happens to men. I acknowledge
was a virgin and did not tell me it was an Asian girl and pretended like she wasn't. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on? And then afterwards, she was like, I didn't want to tell you because I didn't. I'm like, that's fucked up. I was kind of upset with her. Like, why would you do that?
Yeah, but the question is if the act of sex itself is what's causing the damage, and that's where I would disagree. Now, can there be emotional things that happen in the course of that cause damage? You know, maybe expectations are met. Maybe she thought she was going to be a wife. She didn't get to be that, so her ego is bruised. Sure, that can happen, but that's not the same as saying that sex is what damaged that person.
Well, when we talk about body count, right, we don't talk about how many relationships a woman had, right? We understand the relevance and the importance and the magnitude of sex. As men, we absolutely acknowledge it. We tell it to women all the time when we police their bodies and we say, watch your body count or you're going to probably have a very low chance of getting a man and retaining him. So we can't behave as if we don't acknowledge the magnitude of sex. So that
I don't look at body count that way though.
So you a wife with bro with 100 bodies. That's what you're saying?
I'm not saying that's not what I was trying to say. What I'm saying is the way I view body count is as though that's more so a reflection of her decision making than it is like, oh, she's damaged because of whatever the number is. You get what I'm saying? It's like more of a reflection of like, okay, well, she clearly can't decide and clearly can't pick the right one because it's been this many people. That's kind of crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Well, maybe she just decided to fuck all of them.
Maybe.
And that's what I'm saying. So
listen, I've met some high body count women that I like, that I adore. They're great women.
So would you go on record stating that you would wife a woman with 100 bodies plus or no?
Well, for the record, I'm not looking into being in any relationship. So would I wife them? No. But would I wife one with 0 body count? Not necessarily either. You get what I'm saying?
All right, let's not ask wife. What about this? Would you want to have a woman with 100 bodies have your child?
Would I want that? No.
All right.
No.
Why?
If it happened, would I die? Would it be the end of the world? Not the end of the world. But I would.
The more I think about this, I absolutely did not damage those women. I really like, because I've been thinking about this for like a week and a half. Like, why do they keep saying this? I really don't get it. Like, I asked all my auntie, I asked a gang of people to explain this to me because I really don't get it. I don't think.
I think you're looking at it too. I think you're looking at it too personal. When we say damage, I look at it as, you know, the little Asian dude that pop up with the emotional damage. Emotional damage.
Yeah.
That's what I hear every time I think about it.
Woman too.
Yeah, regardless of what, you know what I'm saying, you specifically did, that's still another number that didn't turn into anything. You know what I'm saying?
So, Law, you've interviewed hella women, right? Probably a couple hundred by now. What have you asked questions like about body count or whatever?
Yeah.
From what you gathered, from your data you gathered, do you feel like the women with higher body counts are worse or candidates?
Good
they're more
question.
damaged with no, you know, no pun
Okay.
intended, but they're more damaged. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
when you talk to them and you hear some of the things that they're talking about or the things that they're looking for, or just even the way they carry themselves, it's you see it. You know what I mean? You see the issues, you see the damage that has been done, and that's not necessarily from, you know, some nice guy in high school that ran through her. You know what I'm saying? It could be that relationship she thought was going to turn to something, or the dude that slapped her after he hit it, or this dude. You know, it's just, it piles on, bro. You know, it piles on. So the
Hey,
less baggage
can I
that
ask you-
it comes with, the better for her.
all right, so
Talking
can I
about
ask you,
Trev,
can I
you
ask
never,
y'all a
you never.
question real quick? So, Outlaw, the women you have on your show, they're like in their mid 30s and 40s, right?
And nah, it depends. It don't matter. Anywhere from
cool.
22 to
So,
whatever.
So how many bodies do you expect a woman that age to have? You know, like 35, 40 years old.
Not no 100.
Like, what would you expect?
I don't know. It
And
depends.
she's never been married, anything like that.
Ain't no telling. I don't know how they
Imagine.
moving nowadays. You know what I'm saying?
Imagine
But
a woman
but
bold enough to
hundreds is
tell you.
crazy work.
Imagine
I mean,
a woman
if she-
bold enough to tell you she had 3 digits.
I've had somebody tell me she had 3,000 on my show.
She was a porn star?
Wild work.
She was a whore, but yeah. You know.
What?
So you saying if a dude came and had sex with that 3,000 women and he was 3,001, he the one damaged her?
No, she's already gone, right? But that's not typically what we pick, right? Even no matter what my body count ended up being, I would always choose the women with the lesser, right? Because I didn't want to deal with the extra shit that come with women with higher body counts. That's just me, right?
I mean, I don't know how y'all can tell. I mean, hopefully,
I don't know, man.
you
I
can
feel like
gauge.
the only
A woman
damage
can
is
lie.
when you go from virgin to not virgin. Like if you want to call that damage, I feel like that's fair. You know, you was a virgin, now you're not a virgin, so now you can't be a wife in the same capacity that you might have been. You know, you don't get to walk down the aisle. Okay, that makes sense. But once you're not a virgin no more, it's like after a certain amount of bodies, it becomes almost like, what's the difference? You know what I mean?
And that's
there's been a few studies. There's been a few studies, right, where, and a lot of y'all have been in the red pill space and heard the stats before, where they have compared the body counts to marital rates, and women who have more than 5 or 6 usually drop off with a really high rate.
Wait, no, Claire. I seen those
But
studies.
what woman in her 30 and
Claire,
40s don't got 5 or 6 bodies, or not even 5 or 6 relationships in her life?
So the idea is not to say, all right, I'm dropping off of 5, but it's something that you want to take into consideration, right? It's something that you want to weigh heavily. So once you start getting over a dozen and shit like that, then you wonder what type of life she had and what type of decisions did she make and shit like that. So, I mean, our thresholds are objectively worse than our fathers and certainly grandfathers, but it's something that we still have to be mindful of. You don't want to get triple digits. You don't want shit. If anybody with over like 10 for me would be like, nah, fuck that.
So Trev, I seen those studies, right? And then
Are
I
you
went and
serious?
researched. I went and looked
I'm
up
dead serious.
the source material for the study, and they was all based off of religious websites. So you could take a survey you could lie with statistics and surveys. It's really easy to do. I could poll all the men that I know that I grew up with that play basketball or got money, and most of them have triple digits as far as that and are in successful loving marriages in there for their kids. Now, do I create a survey that says you need 100 bodies plus to be a loving husband and be there for your kids? Because I got the data to prove it. But that's kind of how I hear that survey. They have a premise, then they find statistics to fit that premise and push it forward. I don't know, bro. I just don't. This damage thing is blowing me. Because if I really feel like I damaged these,
the only statistics I trust is like if it has to deal with like financial stuff. Other than that, like, you know, those are people's opinions. Somebody might lie. Who are you interviewing? You know, like Marcus said, all of it could be some bullshit.
So you don't feel like body count has any merit?
I mean, well, if I was a single man looking for a woman, body count at my age, I would expect a woman to have over 10, bro. If you damn near 40, I'm not, and you tell me, oh yeah, 10 guy, I'm like, come on, bro. Like, for real. You've been having sex for 22 years.
Is that
And
something?
10 would be.
I'm
she
saying,
was in
but wait, hold
2 year
on. You
relationship.
saying
That's fair.
because you saying at your age, but you also not you in a different ball game. If you was your age and looking for a wife, is that gonna matter? You still gonna be looking at the 10 body account? No. You know what I'm saying?
I would more so be concerned about if the woman have kids rather than like, than that. You know what I'm saying? Because a kid is like, damn, you for sure got knocked up. You know what I mean? But like, say a girl could be out there and be from Minnesota and move to LA and change her life and become, whoever and be a great woman. You know what I'm saying? But it's like shit. I mean, I don't know though. As long if it was a situation where I didn't know the dudes who she smashed and I didn't have to see them at all, then I'll probably be okay. You know what I'm saying? But it's like if I have to like, see them at the store, like, oh, that's the homie, because where I'm from, girls will mess with your homies and it's not a big deal. You know what I'm saying? Like you fuck him, you know what I mean? But it's like if you don't have to necessarily cross paths with the guys and feel that, that tension, I'll probably just be like, what does it matter? You know what I'm saying?
Facts.
But if she got like kids and another man hitting her up, and talking shit to her and all that, that's something I probably wouldn't be okay with, depending on the dynamics of the relationship. But at this age, it's more so like, okay, kids, because a woman is more than likely gonna have a high body count at this age for sure.
You know what? I
Yeah.
get it, but I think that I mean we all could say that, but I would gather that everybody who's married here probably married a woman who had a low body count.
I did. That was also about my ego, right? If we're gonna be honest, like I think I got, in my personal opinion, this is my personal opinion, I feel like if I wanted to, I could make a relationship work with damn near any woman because I know how to communicate and how to, give and take, compromise, communicate, and I know what to do sexually, right? So I could potentially make it work wherever. But ego-wise, I just wouldn't, you know what I'm saying? I have a viewpoint of women in my mind, and I was consistent with that when I picked my wife.
So, Marcus, I say
But
this. You sound like a mechanic who, like, I'm a mechanic, right? I know how to fix cars and shit. That doesn't mean that you deliberately going to spend your hard-earned money on a hoopty, right? You're not going to spend 50 racks on a hoopty because you a good mechanic. You're going to be like, nah, fuck that. I'm going to, this trans is cool. Like, it's running good. The interior smell good. It ain't got no rips in the leather.
Though. You know what I'm saying?
if it's all I could get, like I said this before, I feel like I got the skill to date any woman, but I fortunately had enough marketable value or whatever that I was able to select the woman that I wanted.
You picked the
Had I
best
not,
choice possible.
had I the best, yeah. Had I not, I would have just done the work on the opposite end with whatever woman I was, able to obtain from whatever I was bargaining with from that point in the dating market. Like I feel like I'm extremely realistic about that.
To be honest, I don't think that's any different from any man. I think we're all going to try to get the best woman we can obtain, and then we'll have concessions basically on our sexual market value, right? So you go on, everybody who can get a dime is going to try to get a damn dime, right? But once you realize you got a couple things with you know you ain't getting your money right, or maybe you like 5'6" or some bullshit, then you realize, like homeboy said, your pool is shrinking. So then you'll be like, okay, I'm going to have to concede on a couple things. But there is no man who's not going to at least try to get the best option possible, whatever is most important to him.
Yeah, but like the best option doesn't always mean that she has a low body count. There could be
not for every man.
A low body count that ain't shit, don't know how to cook, clean up, or whatever. There could be a woman that was a flip, and in LA terms that means hoe back in the day, and will be the best wife and mother you could probably find now. You know what I'm saying? Like we don't know what anybody could turn into, because somebody could look at some of our lives and be like, man, back in the day you had hoes. You had this and you had that. But I said this on a podcast previously. Most of the majority of the men that I knew growing up that had a lot of women are now like devoted husbands and fathers now. But back in the day, you would look at them and be like, man, he probably gonna have 5 baby mamas and this and never get married or whatever. But at the end of the day, like for me, I was always trying to find the right woman. You know what I'm saying? Like I wasn't going around like, man, I just want to go somewhere, meet a woman and bang her and go back. You know what I'm saying? I was never on that type of time. But then it's more so like, shit, if you have 100 that you in contact with
Be the
you
niggas that
can
end up
narrow
cheating.
it down to a few, you know what I'm saying, and figure out what you like and go from there. You know what I'm saying? But women, you know, that's not right for a woman to do. She should have more discernment. But as a man with options, you kind of like know, like, okay, this is gonna be the right choice for me. Like, okay, I like her. I like her. Oh, her body count is high, but she has a good job and you know bought a house and this is that and the third. I work with that. You know what I mean? So it's very subjective. But and even if a woman has kids, you know, I don't even think that diminishes her value, just depending on the type of guy you are. If you're willing to be a stepfather and step up and do all that. You know what I'm saying? I know I'm absolutely not able to do all that just because I got kids on my own. You know what I mean? But everybody has their own preference. I would hate to say that, you know, just because a woman did this in her past, she's diminished for life or she could never be this or that and the third. I honestly do not believe that at all.
So I agree with a lot of what you said, except for the part where you compared men to women, because there's absolutely a double standard as far as men and women in almost every facet, and certainly with sex. It doesn't affect men and women the same at all. You could fuck your way into oblivion and be fine, right? Women generally don't operate like that, right? If you have 3,000 bodies, I think you'll still be cool. You could probably get a wife. You're like, I'm all fucked out. I'm gonna go get a wife instead. A woman can't really just hit that switch like that. Typically, that's just not how it works. But this is something that I prioritize.
It just
yeah. So I was just gonna say this is something.
It really just depends.
Go ahead.
My bad. The mic is. Go ahead.
All right. I was just gonna say.
I was gonna say that it also. God damn. All right. So look, I was gonna say. It all depends on the person. You know, there's guys that are just addicted to fucking new women all the time. And they be like, oh, I don't like her because of this. I can't deal with her because of that. You know, I know some, you know, within my circle, it's like, damn, are you ever gonna settle down? Nah, man. I just got this girl. I just fucked this girl. I just fucked this girl. And it's like, damn, bro, are you ever gonna find one? Like, you getting old. Like, what's up? Like, you gonna keep hunting all day?
Hold tight, gentlemen. Hold tight. We do got a caller. We got Nikki who just called in. Nikki, can you hear me? Nikki, you there?
Yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, give me 1 second. Okay, can you hear us? I don't know why I can't hear on here. Can you guys hear?
I heard her for a little bit. She said, yes, I'm here.
No, that was on speaker. I'm trying to patch in through here.
Oh.
All right, Nikki, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah. I'm just trying to figure out why it's not connecting. Give me 1 second. I want to make sure you guys be able to hear.
Why he fixing that? Oh.
Hold on, Marcus. Give me 1 second. All right, Nikki, can you hear me? So damn weird. I'll just put on speaker. All right, go ahead, Nikki.
Hi there. Am I heard?
Yeah, you heard.
Okay. It's good to hear the discussion. Since you requested that ladies call in, what specifically would you like us to add to the conversation?
Oh, I thought you was calling in because you wanted to ask them a question or you want to add to the conversation.
Back it up.
Yes, it was really good to hear. It's really good to hear this. Oh, I'm looking at the chat and I'm seeing that you can't hear me.
Yeah, I think that they can hear you. Maybe the chat can't hear you. I don't know why it's not connected.
Back it up. Let's get back to the conversation.
No, we can hear him. I think he was they was joking in a just say what you had to say. We can hear you. You don't gotta touch it.
Yeah, I can hear her fine.
I don't know what Cloud was doing.
So First, I can lead with the question. The question that I have for the gentleman, given that I don't know any of you, who is happily married on the panel? That's the question that I have. And who on the panel actually wants this, and who on the panel actually wants not yet one? Because I think the conversation that you have with someone when they don't have.
Hold on, Nikki, because you kind of cutting in and out. Are you on speakerphone?
Can we just get back to the
Yeah.
conversation?
Oh, don't be on speakerphone.
Yeah. Turn off speakerphone, put it to your ear.
Is this better?
I believe so.
Yeah, I think it's better.
Okay. Do you need me to restate my questions, or you heard everything?
Restate.
Yeah, I restate the question.
Okay. So I think the discussion is probably moot if a person doesn't want to be married and if a person doesn't want to have children. So my question for the panel would be, who's happily married on the panel? And for those who are not, who wants to actually be a husband and who wants to actually have children? Because if you don't want any of those things, then adhering to a structure doesn't really make any sense.
I agree.
Any gentleman want to answer that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm married with children. I know what it's 4 of us married with children. I mean, I don't.
Yeah, I'm married with 3 kids and very, 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 very happy. All the varies.
They say all the varies.
Yeah.
Does anybody else want to be? She was saying that was the second part.
Yeah, does anybody want to be who's not?
I'm happily single.
She already gave her thoughts on
In
it.
dating.
So I'm trying to figure out, why is she trying to take footnotes? She already said what she felt about it. So why would it matter if someone was married or not? You already gave your thoughts on how you felt. So I'm trying to figure out, how does that link?
Okay, so I'm navigating the tech. I'm also hearing myself double. So have patience with on my end, please. So for the people that are happily married, because I seek to learn, I'm not like seeking to debate. What made you choose your wives? What makes them a good spouse to you? Because I would not agree that a man could have any person as a wife. A woman needs to be prepared to be a wife, and a man needs to be prepared to be a husband. Through their union, they grow to be the people that they are. But I don't think you can achieve that with any person. So, and I also don't believe that the majority of people are actually prepped to be married. So I would love to hear from the happily married people, what made you choose your spouse? What do you think makes your relationship work? And for those who are looking to be in your position, what do you think they should be looking for?
That's a good question.
So,
All right. Go ahead, Mike.
you guys ready?
Go ahead. You go first. I'll go.
So for me, it was attraction level. So I was extremely attracted to her. Then personality wise, I was kind of seeking a specific personality trait, which is kind of like a very like feminine, calming energy, and she had that. Plus, she was ready, willing to listen, learn, and just mold to the example in my mind is what I thought a woman in my life would be like, that I was going to be with long term. The thing I think made it successful is, in the previous relationships, I was doing corrective measures, right? So whatever mistakes I made previously, I would repair those moving forward. And the biggest one, like all the women I dated previously said I was a great boyfriend. The only thing is lies of omission, like the cheating or whatever, right? So I fixed that issue and figured out how to become extremely transparent and discuss anything I needed to discuss, as well as setting parameters as far as how we communicate. So I spoke about this before, but we don't communicate in any contentious manner. All conversations are solution-based oriented or with the goal of furthering our relationship, love of the family. So if there's anything that needs to be discussed, it'll be discussed with the caveat that there cannot be any malicious, harmful, or angry verbiage sent in my direction or at hers. So the parameters in which we exist, it's like healthy communication where everything is on the table and it's just pure understanding. And I think that formula works. I think if you can, you got to temper yourself and figure out how you deal with. This is where I think leadership come into it, because by me being steadfast and standing on, hey, we're not gonna operate in any other way than this, where it's healthy communication. We'll discuss whatever you want to discuss. Sometimes we may need to step away, but by me standing on that's the way in which this relationship will flourish. She was able to acquiesce to that, and we could build off of that, if that answered the question.
Yeah, I would say for me, it's a little bit along them lines, but also I would say a genuine consistency, right? Like the day in, day out, just being there, regardless of what the scenario is, the genuine consistency and the ability to, show up. You know what I mean? Like when somebody down for you. You know what I mean? And it's just you. I hate to say that when but when somebody down for you. You know what I mean? So that genuine consistency, I think, was the main thing. All the other stuff you can find anywhere. You know what I'm saying? Sexy, this, whatever the fuck case may be, you can find that anywhere. But I think the genuine consistency is what did it for me.
All right, I can give you not just an answer for me, but I've consulted with too many men to count as far as what is the most attractive feature, and for me, for sure, and because beauty is one thing, right? That's going to help you obtain a man. So keeping up yourself is going to get you in the door, right? But then after that, the most attractive thing is consideration. And that's not just and one, it's multifaceted. So that means you're going to have to just think of me, right? What is going to make this man's life easier? How can I make his day better? Can I insert myself into his life where I am utilized, right? Where I am needed, where I'm desired, right? So that would mean like, okay, what is it that he likes to eat? When does he like to eat? Can I help this man with his paperwork? How can I make his day just go by smoother? Can I meal prep for him? Right? Could I have him set up for not just a meal, but maybe 3 meals, right? How many what's his sexual needs like? What does he really like? What's his desires? Right? What type of gifts does he like? What's his interest? What's his hobbies? Like it's just about trying to insert yourself in a way that's it doesn't have to be intrusive, but it kind of is, right? Like it's taking that energy that a woman has to snoop around when she thinks he's cheating, but directing that into finding and investigating what it is that makes him tick, what it is that he likes, what's his favorite things, how can I make his life easier? I think that right there, if that's your focus, if you enjoy pleasing a man, enjoy making his day easier, and of course it has to be a worthy man, but if it brings you joy to please the man, then you definitely have your hands on a sustainable relationship, in my opinion.
Does that answer your question, Nikki?
Yes, those are beautiful. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you for calling in. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
I would further say that if women are at a disadvantage, like maybe you have one kid too many, or maybe you're a little overweight, or just a lot of the things that would typically discourage men from keeping you long term, that consideration thing, if you go as deep as I was talking about, pause, as we just described, I feel like a lot of men will throw away a lot of those other things just because of the appreciation that they would have for you. Because a man could get over that, right? Like they could get over somebody who's not, if you ain't no dime, okay, whatever, right? Men will deal with a lot of things. If they know you are willing and you are like considerate, it puts you above so many other women, because a lot of us, we talk about hyper individualism a lot, and even today the pastor on the video talked about how selfish people are. When people are selfless and they are considerate of their partner, you are in for a long-term relationship.
All right, thank you there, Trev. Yeah, one more super chat came in. Gina 79 says, I will be on some prescriptions with honey bodies. Thank you, Gina. And thank you for your transparency. Well, thank everybody for tuning in tonight.
Antibiotics.
Hit that like button. Also, make sure you subscribe to the channel and catch us next Tuesday.